All right, let's just get going. We'll have people catch up when people catch up. But all right, so this is a special broadcast here. This is part 2 of Midnight Mass, and this is a series on Netflix. Of course, there are 7 episodes. We did last week on Monday night. We did episode 1, 2, and 3 with James and Derek, and James and Derek are both back tonight. We also have Rohan in tow, and we're talking the same thing, except, well, episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I want to, before we say hi to these guys, I want to make sure that if you guys are not aware, there are serious hardcore spoilers. So as you probably knew in the first one, if you were just kind of figuring what's going on, you would be like, oh, you just spoiled the shit out of this entire thing for me. Thanks. Well, yes, but we warned you first. So we're going to make sure we warn you again. So this is episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Midnight Mass. It's a roundtable discussion again with me, myself, Michael Strange. We have Rohan, Derek, and James of Salcedo Paranormal. Let's begin. You guys introduce yourself, say hi, and let's get rolling on this sucker. Let's start with Rohan. What's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Yeah, hey, buddy. Good. A++.
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, pleasure to be here. It's great to speak to you. I've been really loving this show, so it'd be nice to have a chit chat with you and my lovely friends to see what's what.
All right. You got a anything you want to tell them about yourself? You got something coming up, or you want to save that for another announcement another time?
Oh yeah. I'm working on a podcast in the background. I've got a few episodes down, so yeah, we'll clock that another time. But yeah, it's on the way. It's down in the pipeline, Mike. So yeah, So I'm interested in all this consciousness talk and stuff, and for Troubled Minds radio, I got to know some people, and yeah, we have some really interesting conversations. And so doing this what we're doing now was an idea that was generated out of that, just from the discussion from people around the world. So so it's just really appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So when that comes, we will be the first to be talking about it for sure, 100%. Because I will not let.
Oh yeah, exclusive.
I will not let it go by without us talking about it. So when Rohan begins his podcast, we'll have the links down below and all that stuff. So there you go. All right. So let's go to Derek, and then we'll get to James and get this sucker going.
What's going on? Yeah, Derek the Nightstocker. I don't really have much to plug. Earlier tonight, I was on Pulp Addicts with Dave Cruz and Gigi, and normally Russ Bailey, just a place where we talk all things nerd stuff, nerd news, different pulp culture things. And other than that, just find me in the Discord chat. I'll be talking about weird stuff at the show.
Nice. All right. Fantastic. And James, Salcedo Paranormal. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Glad to be here. And I have my podcast, Salcedo Paranormal. I was born legally blind, but I've had a number of experiences with the paranormal, and that's what led me to make my show. And I'm always looking for true ghost stories. So that's mainly what I cover there.
Fantastic. You can find his show actually down below in the links, and let's do it. So when we left off last week, we were talking about Midnight Mass, and it was the first 3 episodes, all right? And so we intentionally, this is kind of an experimental thing. We're just kind of getting our feet wet, kind of talking about this Troubled Minds roundtable sort of situation. What's up, Matt says, this is great, Troubled Minds All-Stars, right? And that's kind of what we're calling it a little bit, but unofficially that's the name. But it's just more of a discussion about things in the zeitgeist that, people are trending. People are into this stuff. People are like, there's a ton of people that watch this Midnight Mass. And so we're just kind of going through and talking about it. And we started off on episode 1, 2, 3, and I thought it was a good stopping point because that's when things kind of start to go nutty. Episode 3, at the end of that, just to brief everybody up to that point, I guess, what's the best way? I guess we're going to just assume they've seen it and not really recap, right? Because there's the first 3 write the whole thing. Okay, so at the end of episode 3, I'm going to say it right this time. Father Paul actually gets attacked in the Holy Land in this cave by a vampire, a demon, an angel. We don't know what this thing is.
He calls it an angel. Yeah, he's calling it an angel. So it looks like a vampire. Looks like a demon.
Yeah, it looks like a gargoyle. We'll call it an angel. Yeah. He says an angel. He's the expert because he got bit by it. We'll call it an angel.
Yeah.
So he gets bit by this thing, and not only does it almost kill him, then it slashes its wrist and feeds him blood back. And so he was, Father Paul at this point was probably 80 years old, 85, something like this. He was had dementia and all kinds of bad stuff going on, and he was at the end of his life. So this attack by this angel or whatever this monster happens to be ends up almost killing him, but then it also revives him by giving it its own blood back through gashing its wrist. Yeah. He drinks the blood, and then guess what? Lo and behold, we have a miracle, because not only is he revived from almost being dead, now he is made whole again, as it were, and he's brought back to his former prime. And so where he was 80 or 85 years old, now he's 30 maybe, something like this.
Let's say 33 for biblical sake, Okay. But the part that really got me was he was saying he was absolutely terrified. He was trying to light a match just to see what this monster was hiding in this lost ancient temple, and he was this old guy lost in the desert. He was going to die from this monster, and then when he's getting drained, the blood being drained, he said not only was it draining the blood, it was draining his fear from him, which was an interesting aspect. It was actually taking away his negative feelings as well as feeding on his blood. You know what I mean? And that may play a part later on in these episodes too. But I thought that was interesting aspect, and that's kind of the first it's what allowed him to believe that this monster was possibly an angel.
Yeah, so he stopped being afraid. The fear was the big thing.
The fear, it sucked the fear right out of him.
Yeah. And so as a result, so now we have this episode ends and he's young again, and so now we find out that the old guy is the same as the young guy in the beginning, and this was the moment when things changed in the Holy Land. So now things start to go off the rails because the monster is revealed, the twist is revealed, where the old guy is now young again, and he's back in his old stomping grounds in his old church, doing what exactly? Doing what? That's the question. All right.
And it turns into a straight-up Halloween show now.
Yeah, exactly. Now things go nuts. Anything to add to that, Rohan?
Actually. And Nightstocker in the past had said something that Father Paul, when he sees the angel, he says he's terrified. And when he's in the end of episode 3, we see this scene where he's doing a confession. This is where we're finding out it's been revealed. He's in the confession box, kind of practicing what he's going to reveal, sort of thing. And he says that during that he's recounting all of the times in the Bible where people have seen angels and been terrified. And it takes me back to Nightstocker has said many times, he said the same thing, that the descriptions make him because to represent they can see in all directions, they'll have eyes in, all around the body. So it's terrifying, and it makes that same point in the show, that when you actually see an angel, it's going to scare you, it makes me, it gets your mind wandering, doesn't it?
Honestly, having it broken up, by watching it too, not only just for the podcast, but watching the first 3 and kind of taking a break before watching the last 4, I really didn't know what to believe. He said it was, we're looking at this demon monster that's draining blood like a vampire, and but it said it's an angel, and then exactly what Rohan is saying, how we know that the angels in the Bible aren't these Renaissance angels that we imagine, aren't these baby cherubims and stuff. They're these horrifying monster-looking creatures. And so I really had no clue whether we were about to get a vampire show or dive into what angels really are, or I don't know. It was a mental roller coaster, And it was cool to break it into 2 parts. I really enjoyed that. It was a nice wrinkle.
It's a wonderful point. I think that almost fits. That was such a strong feeling of that as well. It's almost like that's what they were trying to hit. They were trying to hit in between a line, hit a line to split it, to say, really blur the lines. Like, it's almost like what is good and bad, what is right and wrong,
exactly.
What do you expect? If it's, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And anything, questions or whatever, James? Anything you think we missed that maybe you need filling in?
No, that's just really interesting. The whole idea of things being not what people always think they are, because of what earlier people have described or said. I mean, it was my idea. We've talked about this in the main show before too. How words can be confusing. People can have different ideas of what the same word can mean. That's an interesting idea, an interesting theme for this show. So I like that.
Right on. Okay, so let's go with Book 4, Lamentations. That's what this is called. And here we go. This is where shit gets off the rails with this show because, of course, again, we have the emergence of this monster. So here we go. So Crockett's resident doctor, Sarah Gunning, discovers that Erin's fetus has mysteriously disappeared from her uterus and concludes that Erin has miscarried. A distraught Erin travels to the mainland the next morning for a second opinion, but the doctor is unable to find any evidence that Erin was ever pregnant. Now, remember, Erin is the sweetheart, the childhood sweetheart of Riley, okay? And so now, mysteriously, it appears as though she was never pregnant whatsoever, even though she has specific doctor's visits where they have ultrasounds and the whole thing. It was all there. Now it is not there, and no evidence whatsoever. Something really gritty and mysterious happened here. So Father Paul begins experiencing symptoms of vampirism following his resurrection, including burning in sunlight. And Bev produces his true identity as Monsignor Pruitt. Unable to perform his duties in broad daylight, Paul performs an at-home Eucharist with Sarah's elderly mother, Mildred, who recognizes Paul as Pruitt. Joe visits Paul again that night and sees him drinking the angel's blood, which Paul has been diluting with communion wine and feeding his congregation. Paul kills Joe. Now, Joe's the town drunk, if you guys remember. And so Father Paul kills Joe.
Pastor Paul does sound better. It's a nice ring to it. Yeah.
It's got a nice ring, even though it's they'd probably punch me in the face if I tried to say that.
I think they say Pastor Paul. I think he says it's pastor at some point. I think it's pretty interchangeable. I'm not sure though.
Okay, that's fine.
It's all good.
I'm not trying to get any kind of brownie points with the church. So whatever.
Yeah, true.
It's all good. It's all good. So then now Paul. So Joe visits Father Paul that night and sees him drinking the angel's blood, actually drinking it, which Paul has been diluting with communion wine and feeding to his congregation. Paul kills Joe and drinks his blood, and that was a weird one. We'll talk about that. Let's see. Bev, Mayor Scarborough, and the local handyman Sturge discover the scene the following morning, and Bev elects to cover it up, believing Paul's resurrection to be an omen of the second coming of Christ. During an AA session, Paul claims to Riley that Joe is absent because he is visiting his sister. Riley, knowing Joe's sister to be deceased, returns to the rec center late at night to confront Paul, but walks in on the angel shedding its blood into the decanter. Upon seeing Riley, the angel attacks him. All right. Now, there's a lot there. This is where, again, this is the middle episode, and shit is hitting the fan. So, where do we begin here?
Yeah, because that was awkward. That was awkward, wasn't it? That bit.
That was a lot. That's really when you're thinking like, okay, so this angel thing is really getting turned on its head. Like we're going full vampire. As soon as like the light hits him and it's up to burn his skin, you're just like, oh shit, it's really it's going down now. Like we're not messing around. We're in vampire territory here, full bore, you know.
Exactly. So where do we start? So the pregnancy thing is weird because it shows that there's something going on that's maybe we're not sure yet, right? We're not exactly positive what's happening, but there's like, is it a supernatural thing? Was she cursed? Is she delusional? Was she dreaming about this pregnancy? But then you have the doctor that's kind of corroborating that it happened. right? So there's some strange things going on.
She's still like freaked out too. She still doesn't really know what's going on. She's like, yeah, maybe you miscarry, but like there still will be some kind of like, you can tell if somebody's been pregnant like yesterday, you know? And then like Father Paul's like trying to explain it, and he's like, he doesn't really know what's going on too. He's like, yeah, like I feel like everything's a matter of faith, not science. And I mean, don't. Oh no, like actually, I'm reading this little description. He's talking about his like his resurrection and stuff. But the like science and religion thing, like blurring the two. Like, what is there real like vampiristic like stuff happening? Like the baby thing really threw me for a loop. I didn't know how to handle that one. It's tough to explain it without going too far ahead. Like,
yeah, so we'll get to that. It is confusing. It makes you wonder what actually is going down. Like I said,
what's going on? Yeah, like did somebody steal the baby? Like we didn't know. Like
exactly. Like what
was happening?
Yeah, like or again, is she delusional and it was never happening and she's now right? Like there's a lot kind of in that moment, and as it begins, you're like, what the hell is this? So this after it goes nuts last episode, now it starts a little bit slow with that because you're wondering, okay, one more piece to this puzzle of WTF is going on right now. But then we got this super weirdness of Father Paul begins experiencing the symptoms of the vampirism with the burning of his skin when he touches the sun. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting with Erin as well. When she goes to the doctor, like say, it's a soft start to it after a dramatic end to the last episode in the fourth one. So it seems like it's going to be a soft start, you know, and then it drops that bombshell, but it's all sort of like calm because there's no evidence. It can't be, you know. But obviously, thinking from Erin's perspective, that would be really damaging. That, like I say, they'll be like the viewer. And plus, we've had the miracle, haven't we? And we start to see weird stuff happen already. It's like say, so you're caught in this in between zone, and then when she goes to the mainland, okay, the doctor there don't know her. Right, she didn't know that she's been having a baby. Do you know what I'm saying? So because she's found no evidence of it, she literally offers her some psychiatric treatment. Imagine being in that scenario, the damage of that baby going missing, and then being offered psychiatric treatment like it's not, that'd actually be damaging to your psyche, wouldn't it? And I thought that's kind of and she's like a bit in a bit of an outcast role as well. Do you know what I'm saying? That'd be an extra terrifying thing to be considered crazy. I mean, even more of an outcast, wouldn't it? You know, and it's so like you say, and then it gets the cock sticking. And where's that baby gone? Yeah. You know,
and it's like she was just talking about how she was like a real screw up growing up too. We just learned her whole backstory the first 3 episodes, and this baby's the thing that like really saved her life. You know, like for the most part, her character. Like she really evolves, like going through the next 3 episodes. She's like one of the main protagonists. She's like, I kept calling her like the love interest in the first episode, which really feels like disrespectful now. Like, but the first 3, like she's really defined by this baby, and then also by her relationship with this other guy. You know, so immediately they snatch that from us in the beginning of episode 4. You know, and like as a viewer, you're still thinking like, what the hell's going on? You're still trying to think like, what's the catch, and like who took it, and like is this thing all right? So it must be evil. It's snatching babies, and also like, but is it an angel? Like what's going on? But like she wasn't drinking the wine, so like what's happening? Like, you know what I mean? It was confusing. It was a roller coaster. This show really puts you on your toes. You know, it makes you. It's like I don't know. It's well thought out, well crafted show.
Yeah, paced nicely. Rohan and I were talking about that a little bit earlier. Like it's 7 episodes seems to be a weird number, but it was just right. You know, if they tried to squeeze another couple in or make it 10.
Very biblical number.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
I was thinking that.
Oh, jeez. Of course, right? As always.
I totally missed that. I missed it.
Of course. All right. So then, let's talk about the weirdness. So Father Paul now he kills Joe. Now Joe is the town drunk. He's been going to these AA meetings. They're the trio now, right? And it's this really weird scene where Joe kind of comes in and sees him with. He doesn't see him with the monster, does he? He's drinking from the like the very last bit of the monster juice, right?
Yeah, think he's just. I'm not sure if he like discovers that he's like doing something bad. I think he's just like overcome by his thirst, and he just attacks Joe, kind of. I'm forgetting, kind of, but it's like it's not like what happened with Riley. It's like I don't think he sees the monster, does he? And he's like, I don't think he's like, how would he know it's blood if the monster wasn't actually there?
Yeah,
I think it's more just he was overcome. This is his first feeding, and he was just overcome by this overwhelming hunger, and he just like lashes out, you know.
Yeah, and so it's this weird scene where so Joe comes in, he's like, oh, hey, you said to stop by whenever, but clearly Father Paul is he seems agitated a little bit, he seems like he's busy, he seems like don't bother me, he seems kind of like that. And so Joe picks up on it, and he's like, okay, well, okay, I get it, I'll come back another time, whatever. And he's like, no, come here, you're okay. I said, anytime, the door's open. And then he gives him this weird hug, like the Father Paul gives Joe this weird hug, and they're like in this weird, like, kind of scuffle, like Joe's trying to get away, like, okay, man, like, cool, fine, this is fine, I'm out of here, right? Like, this is getting weird. But
we're leading into this scene. We see Father Paul as just before Joe arrives. We see Father Paul kind of reciting verses from the Bible over and over frantically, and then drinking keep taking drink. He's on the bottle, isn't he? He's on the wine. He's got the decanter, and that's when Joe walks in just after he's finished it, and he's at the sink, kind of holding himself up. So you can see something's not right straight away, Yeah, like I say, then he comes in for this weird hug after the vibe don't seem right, and he's like, I'm gonna go. It's like, in sometimes when somebody's drunk and they kind of come here and I love you and they want to give you one of them awkward hugs. It's like one of them, isn't it? But it's all that professional because he's the father, so you don't want to be disrespectful and go, oh, no thanks. So it was like that moment,
And his skin was burning. Like, this guy, now as an audience member, for the first three, it was really like, we don't know. We know this guy there must be something off with this guy. Like, for sure. He's the poster of the show. But, like, there was still he was doing good stuff. So it was still like, I was waiting for some kind of catch. Like, maybe he was more of a victim type of scenario. But then all of a sudden, like, we see the monster. We see what happens. And then we see his skin burning, and he's transforming, and he realizes that he's transforming into something, and like the only thing keeping him together is that like he genuinely believes it's an angel. And so he's like, all right, this must be God, And then, but as an audience, we're starting to be like, okay, something's like this is going bad. This is like he's turning into a monster, and then like Ron was just saying, like the vibe switches, and like Joe realizes that something's amiss. With the pastor, with the father. Yeah.
And then, so then there's this weird hug, like that, like great point, Rohan. It was kind of like a drunk hug. You're right. And he walked in on him, and he was drinking the demon juice, right? The vampire juice, whatever this stuff is. And he did look like he was kind of like, like into a bottle of wine, right? It kind of had that feeling. But the father's franticness was not that. He was hungry, right? He had that vampire hunger and didn't know what else to do. And so he ends up hugging Joe. There's this weird man hug, and then he tries to get away, and he trips, right? And like hits his head. So it's kind of an accident. It's not a murder. It's more like a odd accident that turns into so Joe falls down. And then he hits his head, starts bleeding on the ground. He's like, what the heck, right? Like, what's going on? He's trying to, like, get up to save himself. But then Father Paul, like, holds him down and tells him, right, it's going to be okay. And then starts smelling the blood, like, You're like, whoa, what's going on right about now?
He starts like lapping it up off the floor like a dog, right?
Yeah,
at that point.
Yeah, he's doing it right in front of him. He's like licking his fingers. He's like looking at it, like mesmerized, and starts licking his fingers in front of the guy. That's my blood. He's like,
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, so he starts drinking the guy's blood, right? Like right there as he's dying, like he hit his head and like, clearly has a concussion, probably a cracked skull, whatever, just pouring out like blood from his head. And Father Paul is like just drinking this blood, just like you said, like a dog off the ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, what is going on right now?
And he just dives right in, and he just goes right for the head.
Right.
The way he was doing it was like real creepy. He was like just wrapping him in like an embrace, and then like he's like behind him, like he's like comforting him. And he's like has his teeth like at the top of his head, like the weirdest spot to be like trying to like, I don't know, like a vampire, somebody's blood. Like it's a weird thing. But like the way
that. It looked strange, but it was efficient, wasn't it? Going straight for where the blood's coming from.
Like he was trying to be somehow like comforting or like nurturing still while he's like killing this guy, you know? And like the way they show it all the time, like the creepiest part of the original, like Father Paul getting bitten by the vampire was like the way he was wrapping his wings around him, and like the way he was like his wing appendages were like wrapping around his legs, and he was just like really just like getting into him, you know. And that's always like kind of what you see when this happens, is like he's just trying to get that life energy out of him, like, and it's a real creepy way, you know. Especially when he thinks he's like a good person, he thinks he's like a person of God still. He thinks he's like working for he has this angel. He's been drinking this angel blood, you know. So he's like, I don't know, it's so creepy.
You know what? It reminds me of, ironically, the movement as you crouch down and slowly come to the person and comfort them, you know, and it's okay, and you're holding them down, and it's like slow, careful, don't worry movements, right? And that reminds me of a python. How they move, you know. It's kind of, so it's like it's another bit of food for thought into another opposite. Well, there's the snake in the Garden of Eden, into it, you know. It's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really what it was. Like wrapping them up like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So that scene, we'll get into the rest of this here. But anything there, James? Yeah. Did we miss anything? Are you confused? We're jumping around a little bit, but I think it should be clear enough what the hell's going on right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it is, and that's kind of, I don't know. I felt like it was going to. I'm not too surprised by this turn of events, in a way. So, but yeah, no, it's very interesting.
The good old fashioned vampire story at this point is what it seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
And all right. So he does it. He drinks him out, right? Finishes it up and has his first official vampire meal. It just happens to be in the form of his good friend Joe, who was the town drunk, and now the town drunk is dead. And he's got not only he's fed, but now he's got a problem. He's got a body in his what little apartment, whatever it is. He's got like this huge
and a lot of blood.
A huge blood stain on the ground. Was a carpet, right? A huge blood stain on the carpet. Yeah. And he gets Bev. Remember Bev Keane, the not so nice Catholic lady that is the super judgmental, everything everybody hates about Catholic ladies, right? And Catholic people in general, but she just happens that she's a lady.
Yeah, with this solid false smile.
Yeah, exactly, the judgmental Catholic. But then she arrives and figures that well, okay, we got to do something about this, right? And so Father Paul's like, he doesn't know what to do, right? He's kind of stuck in between, like, what do you do? And so he doesn't make the decisions because he's again confused. He's like, he's filled up. He's eaten for the first time as a vampire. And but Bev is like, oh no, we have to cover this up, right? So she goes and gets the other two compatriots. Who is it? The mayor and the maintenance guy, right? Yeah. And so they come in and she's trying to tell them, we got to get rid of this body. Right? We got to get rid of this body. And it turns into that, right? So suddenly she's like the cover. She's like the person that, like the mob boss that's like, nope, get rid of the body.
Yeah.
So
she was on board right away.
Yeah, she totally looked like she got rid of bodies before. Yeah, she looked like one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
And she's great with the Bible. The thing about Bev Keane is that she's good with her words. She knows the Bible quotes. She's using them all the time, and that's how she motivates the mayor and the maintenance guy. That's how she motivates them, using Bible quotes to make it that preserving this guy's reputation is like doing God's work, kind of thing.
Do you know what I mean? A bunch of like Bible verse bullets. You know, she just fire them off in the hip. You know. Yeah, but she really like she bought in right away. She was game right away, and like the way they introduced it, like in the beginning of episode 4, it kind of seemed like we had missed something when like he was in his like chambers or whatever, his like little house, and was like reacting to the sun, and like really getting sick and stuff. She was like, no, we got to get you out of the house. Like we got to like show everybody because like you've been resurrected. And I thought she meant because he died like in front of all of them, like coughing up blood in like the last episode. But I guess in the meantime, like off camera, he had told her that like he was Pruitt. He'd revealed that to her. So like she now thinks that like he really is like some kind of chosen person from God. That like we have to. It's not just like that you're here healing people, like making them walk and stuff. Is that you literally are the person like that I know that I worked for the past my whole life pretty much, and you've been de-aged by an angel. Maybe so. She might have had a moment of doubt, but she was game like immediately. You know.
Hell yeah. Give me a miracle. I'm your boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. And the other weird thing about that, too, is we don't exactly know when she learned. That's a good point there. That he confided in her probably a whole lot of that. So she knew a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't know she knew yet, meaning she knew it was him. She knew he had been young again, the miracle. She probably knew he was getting burned by the sun. She probably knew he had like... the thirst, as it were, for the blood, right? There's a whole bunch. It's unclear exactly when and how much she knows, but clearly after that first murder of Joe and the lapping up of the blood and the whole mess and getting rid of the body, she knew quite a bit. So she was like,
"Oh, she's certainly an insider, definitely."
Yeah. She might be who he was in the confessional with.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, telling the story because they're the only two clergy on the island. Yeah, so like
thinking that, yeah.
So she heard. So the way he was telling the story, like she didn't have the visual that we had. She only had his narrative of it. Like she couldn't see the demon. You know, like she didn't see it till later on. Like, so she just heard the angel story, like as he said it. So it's possible that. Like, but then, yeah, he just killed somebody. You know,
that passed.
But these Bible people.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
These Bible people, though, you gotta if you really know the Bible the way she knows it, she can like whip it out like that, and she knows all the dark, scary stories too. So she has to have a certain level of like biblical thick skin. Like she's it seems like she's used to this type of crazy scene. Yeah, you're right.
That's not her first body.
Yeah, she's at least read about it in the good book once or twice. You know.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty brutal. Okay, so they get rid of this. Now they do. They're like, okay, now they're in motion. Now they're like a little cabal, right? So they have Father Paul, who's now clearly becoming obviously a vampire. Yeah, exactly. The apostles, exactly. and now they're getting rid of the body for him. And then, of course, there begins now a something is in motion. Some sort of something. There's a plan now, right? We don't know what it is, but clearly he has his apostles, and we have the miracle, and now we have the first feeding of the vampire himself, which is Father Paul, and then of course remember. Okay, so there we go. That's probably enough on that. Anything else there, Rohan or James?
Well, that's interesting that there's 3 of them. It's another number.
Yeah. Trinity. Your wise man.
Yeah, that's another number. No, that's all for that.
Okay. All right. So then, now this is where shit really goes off the rails, right? So remember they had their little AA powwow, and it was first Riley and Father Paul, and that was it. Then they added Joe to the group. Well, now Joe's dead because, Father Paul just ate him. So, that drank his blood and killed him. But now Riley goes to AA that night, and Joe's not there because Joe's dead. He asks, where's Joe? Father Paul tells him he went to the island to visit his sister. Or, sorry, to the mainland. I keep doing that. He went to the mainland to visit his sister. But there's a scene previously in like episode 2 where Riley and Joe were kind of chumming it up after the first AA meeting. They were together, and Joe tells Riley his sister's been dead for a while. Like it's part of one of the shocks of his life sort of situation, kind of commiserating together and talking about, trials and tribulations sort of thing, bonding as it were. And so Riley knows that, wait, no, Joe's sister's dead. He didn't go to the island to visit her. So that means Father Paul straight lied to me, and it starts eating him up. Anybody else? Anything there?
No, just get to the punchline. Get to the good part.
Get to the good part. So Riley is pissed.
Keep him waiting.
So Riley's pissed, and he stomps back to go talk to Father Paul to confront him and say, "Hey, bro, what's up? You lied to me. I know for a fact."
Yeah.
Right? So he goes in there just previously to Riley arriving in the church. Who's there? The monster. The monster shows up again, which again is the odd thing about that too, is that Father Paul was out of the monster blood, and he was like kind of desperate for the monster to come back. He didn't know where he was. He was just kind of stomping around doing his thing. So he shows up sort of at like a perfect moment for Father Paul. He's like, "Oh, thank goodness we're out of the sacrament. Like, well, we have been looking for you. Where have you been?" And the monster doesn't speak, just stomps right up to the front of the rec room there. Is it the rec room, I think, and then slashes his wrist and starts pouring the blood into the decanter at the front of the...
Well, wearing a jacket and fedora.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Go ahead with that, too. There's a reason for that.
Just, I don't know. Oh, I think, does that mean that he was the person that Riley was chasing on the beach? It wasn't actually... Like, we had hypothesized that it was Father Paul before. Like a DH Paul running around on the beach, but it was possibly... I don't know. He probably would have flown away if that was the case. Well, but also, like,
he was just disguising
looked a lot
himself
like
with clothes, just disguising himself with like the father's clothes is what he was doing, right?
Yeah. So like, was he being disguised? Like, so was the thing that we thought Father Paul, was he like the one we saw in episode 2? Was that actually? Was that why all the cats were on the beach like that? Because he was feeding on them on the beach like that? Like, we didn't really get an answer for that. But also, he looked a lot like the Hat Man, who was like a big trope in a lot of paranormal type stuff. Yeah. Just like this thin, like basically like angel of death figure that wears like this black hat and trench coat like this, you know?
Totally. So he comes in and he's dressed like this. So he's in the old father's coat and hat, right? Yeah. So he stomps in, he slashes his wrist, he's pouring his blood into the decanter, and Riley comes in, pissed off, waiting for a fight. But not that kind of fight. Yeah. He wants to confront the Father Paul about lying to him. What happens? Of course he sees this monster up there and is like, what's going on right about now? And the monster, sorry, go ahead. What am I missing?
No. He just gets pounced on. He just gets the monster just swoops right in. It was honestly wild. Like the way they shot it was cool too. Like the camera like moved with the vampire. It was a real jump scare.
Yeah, so the monster turns around, sees him, who shouldn't know he's there, and literally just jumps on him. Like pounces on him, hits him, they both hit the ground. The episode ends.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no. No.
They're in the scares in that show too. Like it's easy to like sometimes when I'm watching and like watching something that's like trying to be scary, I'm like kind of like clenching. Just I'm not afraid, but I know that like any second they're just gonna like jump out of a corner. So I'm like waiting to see shots of like, oh, somebody's head's gonna get chopped off right here. But like eventually, and it's like cheap. It's cheap. They're not. You don't earn those scares. But this show, like it sets you in. It makes you comfortable. It's making you think about stuff. But like when it does hit you with these kind of visceral scares, it feels earned. You know, like. It's not cheap.
It's like when there's no build up, when they don't take the time to explain things to you, and it just happens, and that's a bit more like real life, isn't it? Things just happen. You just suddenly fall over and you hurt all of a sudden, you know, and it's like, you don't get a warning, do you?
Yeah. It's like it's a bit like being in a crash without like tensing up first. You just like, you know, you just feel the whole crash. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's the weird part about it, because it's like literally the whole episode built up to that moment, and so it was probably like, you know, like 0.02% of the whole screen time was that final like pounce on him. It's like, oh shit, and then it ended.
Yeah, with no real hints. Yeah, and then it just ends. Yeah. I think at this point with Father Paul, I think at this point I think he's confused. I think he don't really know what's happening, does it? Do you know what I'm saying? He's just like, so he's just had his first feeding with the thing with the light. I don't think he really gets what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So he's been confused that day. Yeah, he don't know what's happening. And now a guy, when the monster, quote unquote, turns up, he's like, oh, thank goodness. You know, he's kind of getting a bit desperate. because it's like he's looking to him for guidance. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously that's kind of how it'd be if you met some random monster, drank its blood, got all you full. You'd be like, what the fuck? Okay, yeah, what next? You know, you'd be looking to that as an authority figure, wouldn't you?
An angel.
Especially
he thinks it's an angel.
Yeah,
he's a priest. He thinks he's seeing an angel, a real angel in the flesh.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's looking to him. He's like, what was our orders then? What have we got to do, sir? Yes, sir. Yeah. You know, it's almost like that. And like I say, the sudden end in the end, and I like the way that this, like I say, he's filling up with the blood.
Yeah.
The guy comes back, and he don't hesitate, does he? He just turns as soon as he sees him. It's this, in the way he just flies to the camera, and his hat, if you notice, momentarily just pops up over his head. You know,
it's like a tiger. Yeah, just like the veneer of humanity just peeled off him, and he just pounced on him like an animal. But like,
yeah,
like
well, you mentioned the cats in the previous episode. I just want to make this point quick. That Father Paul, in his confession in the third episode, previous episode, he did say, as part of his storytelling, that he'd found this angel and realised he needed to bring it home to the people that needed it, and it had followed him, and he'd hoped that it would, and he weren't sure, and he was having to hide it. So this thing's followed him all the way back to the island. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So it tells you that in episode 3, it gives you a little hint, but it's all embedded in all this what's going on thing, you know that?
Yeah. And the last thing about this episode, and then we should probably move on, but like, you expect some kind of conflict to happen when Riley's going over to the church. You know the demon's there, I'm figuring that he's gonna maybe like catch the father in the act, and we're gonna get the end of the episode. Like he's gonna maybe see through a window that the father's like working with this demon or whatever, but instead the door is wide open. He walks right in. The demon sees him, and like 15 minutes earlier, most of this episode was a real, like we kind of skipped over it, but it was a real personal conversation, like a one-on-one conversation about like where do we go when you die between him and like the main girl from the show. Like, so we're really getting invested in those two people as characters, and then all of a sudden the episode ends with that person we just like grew to know getting pounced on and killed by a vampire. You know, the first character you see. Yeah, the first character you see in the whole show is I think he is as well. He's the first guy into. Yeah, episode 4. And we're in episode 4 now, like halfway through. We're like, what just happened? What's like? Is he dead? Like, is it because Joe like? He's dead for all we know. Like, you know what I mean, he's not coming back as a vampire. You know. But.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up because that ties in nicely later. All right, so let's go next one. We'll burn through this next one because now again, right? It's a slow build. The characters, we learn who they are, all this stuff, but then now shit's off the rails. It's hit the fan, and we're like, whoa, okay. So now Riley's attacked. Here we go. Episode 5. This is called Book 5: Gospels. Concerned over Riley's sudden disappearance, Aaron files a missing persons case with Sheriff Hassan, who hypothesizes that Riley may have relapsed or committed suicide. And just like Derek said there, she recounts the conversation they had about what happens when you die. Okay. Interestingly, I just did that episode on Troubled Minds, honest to God, before I saw that scene. So we did that, what happens when you die, and the next day I watched the rest of this, and they're like, and they're having this conversation on the couch. What do you think happens to you when you die? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, crazy. Yeah, but anyway, so the sheriff hypothesizes that Riley may have relapsed or committed suicide. Remember, he's an alcoholic, and he was talking about dying the night before. On the evening of Good Friday Mass, Father Paul delivers a sermon rife with materialistic rhetoric, urging the congregation to prepare for war as soldiers in God's army. Right, so it upsets.
Yeah, he reminded me of Tony Stark there. He walked off, said, "We're going to do good things," and just walked away.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a little bit like he was trying to rile him up for a fight. It was all, he even did the Marine Corps, right? Soldiers, this is my rifle, right? That whole the rifleman's creed. You guys know that? Yeah. Anyway, whatever. I don't know. It was good to see it. I heard it and I was like, "That's from the." I was with Mrs. Strange. I'm like, "That's from the Marine Corps. That's like the rifleman's creed." And then he said it later, but he replaced your conscience or your faith for the rifle. Like, this is my conscience, this is my faith, right? It is my only one. Right, though, because it is mine, it is special, right? That's the rifleman's creed, something like that. I bought.
He even says in that, like I think it's in that speech, he's like, no offense to the military, like it's really respectful and they're doing God's work, but like that ain't shit compared to what we got. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, this is the real army. Is like what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like, God's army is like, this is where it's going down.
Exactly, whooping people up. Definitely. So it upsets Mildred, who actually knows Father Paul because she's the doctor's daughter, and she's now becoming young again through the sacrament. She's old. She was super old, dementia, the whole thing. And now her physical and mental state seems to be rapidly improving following Father Paul's visits. Right? Oh, weird coincidence, right? More miracles.
I keep laughing, but it's just these little things. Just I can't help it.
It's more miracles, man. It's hard not to laugh at satanic miracles or whatever they are. All right. So later that night, Riley reappears finally on Erin's doorstep and asks her to go offshore on a boat with him. Erin, while suspicious, agrees. Rowing far away from the island, Riley reveals to Erin what happened to him. After being attacked by the angel, Riley rapidly recovered under the care of Father Paul. Father Paul reveals his true identity to him and tells him that he believes the angel's blood is a gift from God, and he has been mixing it into communion wine to heal the residents of Crockett Island. Riley leaves the rec center disgusted and leaves notes for his family and Monsignor Pruitt before seeing Erin. Notably, it's at night. Riley tells Erin he brought her on the boat to isolate himself and declares his love for her. I'll stop there because the last sentence we should probably not spoil because there's some things to talk about first. But okay, so now he's back. All right, so we have this weirdness happening. We can probably burn through this one and get to the end of this episode and then get to the rest of this real quick, because the only two super notable things here is there's the Good Friday Mass where Father Paul is basically calling on the army of God and saying that you people are that army, right? And kind of getting people whooped up, right? Like ready for Easter Sunday, for midnight Mass, right? Which is coming, by the way. And then we have the end of this, right? That's probably the two most notable things that happen in this episode. Riley returning, telling Erin they need to go out in the boat, and he declares his love for her. And then, anybody want to finish this up?
Like in earlier, he's being like actively coaxed into like drinking blood from most of the episode is like him trying to be convinced by Bev and Father Paul to like drink blood, basically, and like giving these urges, and a whole conversation basically about how the father doesn't feel any remorse, and like he's just going full, like he thinks what he's doing is right, and that like he knows it's good because the Lord is taking away all of his guilt, so it must be good. When as an audience member, you're just thinking, or like that's probably how it feels to like sell your soul and do demon's work too. It's like you probably think you're doing, I don't know, but so we're as an audience member assuming like he's about to pounce on her because he just turned into a vampire, you know? And then he tells her, no, like, I'm not here to make you scared. I'm here to, like, show you something. And then, Mike.
Okay, so they go out on the boat together. Go.
I think the episode's basically focused on showing that Riley's recovered. He's not really dead. So it's affected him as well, and then they're trying to basically bring him up to speed on now how his body's changed, and show him that if you get near a person, you're going to have this urge. Do you know what I mean? So they give him a little trial, get somebody close, just to sort of let him know. But he's not going along with it. He's not happy about it, and that's the thing. So he's really, and plus, because the thing is, we have to remember as an audience member, this is a character that's plagued by guilt, and it's weighing heavily on them. So, and this guy's saying all that pain can be taken away, and how do you feel? And he's drilling him, and he's at like AA meeting, and Riley says, "Yeah, I feel jealous because he don't want to feel the guilt." But then when this has happened, it's probably I'd have thought about it and think, well, you kind of want if you've done something and you feel bad about it, you kind of want the guilt as a reminder not to do it. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
all right. Hit him, Mike. Hit him with the punchline.
All right, so just real quick before this happens. Now, up to this point, Riley's been having this dream where he's out in the bay by himself on this boat. All right, it's weird. So he's just like it's unclear when it starts, but it's this recurring dream he keeps having, and so we're like I'd always think he was out in the morning by himself, like literally out in the bay, just kind of like meditating or something, right, out in the quiet, just before sunrise type of thing. Turns out it's not. It's a dream. It's a recurring dream he's been having, and he tells Aaron when they go on the boat that he had this dream last night. Except for the first time, he was not in the boat alone. She was in the boat with him. So we have like literally a premonition in his dream as it changes even before he becomes a vampire. This is before he disappeared. So like it's like he knew this was about to happen. And so there's just an odd little twist to this, which I was like, okay, something's up here. But okay. So then he confesses to her the entire thing. And so you're left wondering why he's out there on the boat with her. He went to his parents' house. He left letters. He went to look at his brother sleeping in the room at night. And you expected him to maybe go feed because he's hungry. He's the vampire now. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to go out and feed. But he doesn't. He leaves his parents. He leaves them a letter, leaves his brother, goes to Erin's and takes her out into a boat. And you're like, oh, crap, right? I'm thinking he's going to eat her, right? Like, why her?
Going full vamp.
Yeah, like this is messed up. That's not what happens. He explains to her everything of what happened, how he got told all this stuff that we're describing, attacked by the vampire. Father Pruitt's off the rails and like thinking this is work of God, and he has his doubts and all the rest of this. And then she says, like, she never really says, I don't believe you, right? This is kind of the beautiful thing about this moment is it's like that moment of faith, right? It's like he's telling her this like outlandish story, and she never stops him to say, what are you, like, you're nuts. Are you insane? She says, look, if you need help, I'll help you with whatever you need, right? She's like, I understand you're going through something here, and I don't understand what it is, but whatever you need, I'm here for you. I will help you. And he's like, no, like, you don't get it. Like, I'm not lying to you. This is not some psychosis moment. Like, this is real. And he said, the only reason we're out here right now is because I wanted to show you, because you would never believe me. And the reason we're doing it this way is because I couldn't. You've always been the strong one. And then what happens, boys?
The sun rises. And he bursts into flame. The sun rises, and then we see like the girl he's been seeing, like another flashback he's had, like with being on the boat. He's been seeing like the girl he killed in the car crash, like all mangled up as he's trying to sleep at night, or like falling to sleep or whatever. So we see her looking like beautiful as how she was when she was alive, like glowing on the boat, and it's like a really like something amazing happened as the sunrise. And then all of a sudden it cuts to what she's seeing, and she's like screaming. All of a sudden the screams enter, and he's bursting into flame, and he's lighting on fire and turning into ash on the boat. It's crazy. It really is crazy.
It's like she's experiencing the reality of him, getting burned up, but he's experiencing exactly the thing that he described that he thought would happen when you die. He said, when you die, I think you'll just have the nicest dream that you can imagine at that very moment and fade away like that. And that's exactly what happens for him.
Yeah. It was like, honestly, very, I don't want to spoil where it's going, but it's very Christ-like. Honestly, he died to give her the information. Like it was purely out of love. He didn't give in to temptation. He could very easily like allow himself to be guilt-free feeding on people. Like, but instead he's explaining it to the person he loves, and he's like sacrificing him. The only way he can possibly prove to her that it's happening is to die. So he's dying for it. And then his one reward is that he didn't have to feel what it's like to be burned alive. He got to experience like a happy ending, like whatever it was, like his neurons frying or whatever. But it was, to him, he experienced like the girl he murdered was okay. But in reality, he's getting lit on fire and frying. So it's very traumatic for her, obviously.
Yeah.
And when she's asked him, and when she says, "Look, I'm prepared to help you," she's made the point of saying, "Just tell me what you want." And he said, "What I really want you to do is get this boat and row to the mainland and run away." But I think you won't do that. I think you're going to just come back and try and help these people. And he says that. So I think that's key as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I was just about to add that if you didn't. So yeah, that's the last thing he says to her. She's like, "What do you want?" And he says, "I want you to run away. I want you to never come back." Because he knows shit's about to get real, super real. Yeah. And so he's
seen excrement all over that fan, and he knows.
He wiped it off himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he says to her as the sun comes up, just as it's coming up, you see, and again, it's done really well. And so he says that the reason he's doing it is because he can't go back and fight, even though he knows he should. And he tells her, "I know you're not going to run because you were always the strong one." And then it ends. And he burns up, and there's that whole moment with his, the young lady he ran over and his, the beginning and all that stuff. So anyway, so that's how this one rolls. Let's go. Anything else there? James. James.
That is an amazing scene. Based off of what you described, that's an amazing scene.
Emotional. It was emotional.
Emotional. It's also, you don't hear a lot about like in vampire stories. You don't hear about there being one that something like that. Often, I don't think.
Like that kind of backs off of the hunger and is able to say, no, I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah, that's not. I'm sure. I'm not really. That's not really my area of what I'm into most of the time. But I'm sure there's probably one or two. But that sounds like it was done just so well.
Yeah, you really are good at picking out these. That's going to come up again later on. Like you really are good at picking out these little details.
I was about to say, well, that comes up again.
That definitely comes up. Yeah,
it comes up again.
What else? I think it just comes from
storyteller.
Well, and consuming so many stories, being into so many stories. Yeah. So, but yeah,
I think
probably both too. But yeah,
when you write a story and you try and put threads in there,
it's not easy.
Well, it's not easy, but they're there for a reason. It's like it's almost like you did it because it foreshadows something else, right? And picking up on that, you're definitely, you got a talent, man. So anything else on this before we move on to the next? There's just 2 more episodes, and like I said, now shit hits the fan. Shit gets really crazy.
Now we're going off. Yeah, it's getting real.
No, I'm good. I'm good and looking forward to this year.
All right, let's roll it. So episode 6, it's called Act of the Apostles. All right. So now Riley's burned, and Erin, of course, just as Riley predicted, she does not row back to the mainland. She goes back to the island. She tries to save people when she understands what's happening. Erin returns to the island after witnessing Riley burn to death and tells Sarah, who's the doctor, what is happening. Sarah shows Erin the de-aged Mildred, who's her mother, and how her blood samples burn under sunlight, theorizing that Father Paul... Yeah, exactly. We'll get to that in a second. Theorizing that Father Paul is inducing a medical miracles via the wine at church. You want to talk about that real quick? the burning blood?
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
I think it might have been earlier in the last episode, but we see... I think it's the blood from her test to find out that she lost a baby. It like snapped in the windowsill, and the doctor was like, "What the hell?" And then I guess she'd been working on it, so she reveals she like pours the blood out on purpose, like out onto the windowsill, and it really just spontaneously combusts, like it's like gunpowder, like you're lighting up gunpowder. It's the craziest thing. So she, as a scientist, is trying to like wrap her head around what could possibly be going on, as her like mother, who was the oldest person in the show, and when it's like she was already planning her life after she died, like is now becoming like a fox again. She's looking real good,
Yes, she was kind of a bit like us, wasn't she? She was like a scientist, and she got these samples, and she's supposed to send them off to get studied, but she just don't want to let them go. She's like, I have to keep doing it. Look, do it again. I can't believe it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So again, it gets nuts. Continues to get nuts. We're completely off the rails and headed toward the ashtray, as it were. So Aaron discloses Riley's death to Annie, who refuses to believe her. Aaron, Sarah, and Mildred attempt to get to the ferry to the mainland, but discover Mayor Scarborough has sent the ferries away, and witness Sturge locking down the fishing boats. So now there's some plot at hand, right? They're trying to lock people down onto the island for you can guess what. That night before Easter Mass, Sturge cuts power to the town and sabotages the cell tower. At Mass, Father Paul reveals that he is Monsignor Pruitt to the residents before unveiling the angel to an awestruck congregation. I think we need to talk about this moment before we continue here.
It's just crazy.
So it's midnight mass. Now it's midnight mass. Easter. Yeah. Go ahead.
In the meantime, they've convinced people that they've told people, oh no, we're not doing morning mass anymore. It's always going to be in the evening. So they just switched that on straight away, and they've already come to that. And then the Easter stuff, it's usually about taking something in. So yeah, we're all going to do this, and we're going to do the, so they're setting it up so they can get it inside everybody, sort of thing.
Yeah, and just imagine how shell shocked these people are. What kind of what their minds must be possibly thinking. They cut to Riley's parents at some point, and they're like, you see that these two people, the dad's a hard ass or whatever, but he's a nice guy, and the mother is just the sweetest woman on the planet, and she's going to church every single day, so she's an example of the church is really messed up, but obviously there's good people in it. So she's looking at this thing like, what do you mean? What the hell is going on? And the whole town knows that he's doing miracles. He's getting handicapped people to walk and stuff. Good stuff is happening, and all of a sudden in walks this hideous monster, and what is going through their minds at that point, it must be absolutely crazy. And they do a good job with it. It's really, I've been kind of I was trying to avoid the actual reviews when I was watching it because I didn't want to have anything spoiled, but I know it's been watched a ton, but I would assume people must be praising it now because in my opinion, it's doing a good job to lay out these threats for us and keep build the tension, and I don't know, it's good.
Yeah, it was really well. That was really well built up. Like I say, because you've got this. So you've got Father Paul, you've got Monsignor Pruitt making this announcement that is actually really young, and these miracles is a physical, visceral thing that we can give to you, and we've already been giving it to you, sort of thing. And you need your last bit, and then suddenly the camera's panning back towards the door, and in the doorway there's some dudes 7 foot, about 7 foot tall, maybe 7. You know what I mean? He's got darkish red skin, bald, looks really old, and well, not old. His skin's kind of tight, it looks like a demon. Walks in, he's got the white kind of is the choir boy robe things on, so he looks the part, and he's coming out. And it's got these lumps behind on his back. So he's walking down, and you can see he might have wings. And he goes and stands at the front, turns around, and just spreads his wings out, coming out of his cape. He's got a special cape, so his wings can get out. And you're like, what? Like you say, what would the psychological impact be if you're religious? And then you've seen these miracles, and then that walks in, and you're like, yeah, well, maybe angels don't look like we thought, and fair enough. Maybe you'd just be like, well, okay. Or just freak, I don't know. It's crazy.
And I imagine it must have some kind of a vibe to it that it looks evil, but I can just imagine it's one of those. It's like a Dementor from Harry Potter, where you just if you look at it, it just you get that cold shiver. That it must have some kind of I don't know, like a negative aura effect or something like that.
Yeah. I'd ask a dog. I would.
Yeah.
Totally. And so when he does this, and this is literally Rohan and I were talking about this earlier, because I am making a video on what this monster is, by the way, and that will follow probably sometime tomorrow. But the thing is, right, this monster it's not exactly clear. So it kind of blurs some lines, right? You think vampire, the healing blood, but it's got wings. It kind of has the skin, the gray skin of a gargoyle. So it's definitely sort of a mixture of a bunch of, mythology, critters of sorts. Angel, demon, gargoyle, vampire is what I kind of named it when we first started. Yeah. And I was sticking to that. It's kind of a mix of those things, and it's strange. But then when it spreads its wings, people in the church start to freak. It starts breaking down. And not only that, now the apostles, the three apostles, as it were, Bev and the two cronies that were shutting down the island and, locking down the boats and cutting the cell tower, now they move back when this thing comes in, this demon, devil, angel, vampire, whatever it is, and they lock the doors. So now people cannot leave. They're stuck inside this tiny church with this creature as it spreads its wings at the front of the church. And everybody's freaking out. Everybody starts freaking out, as you would expect, because I would be freaking out too. So it's really kind of like this thing where it tips on its head in this moment, because I'm not sure what they had planned. We'll talk about that in a sec after you find out what happens here. But it seems like they had a plan that didn't go to the plan. All right, so we'll get to that in just a sec. But okay, so this angel, whatever it is, walks to the front. It spreads the wings, and here we go. So let's see. Father reveals that Monsignor Pruitt to the residents before unveiling the angel to an awestruck congregation, and terrified congregation, by the way. Pruitt informs the churchgoers that Pruitt, again, who is the same as Father Paul, Monsignor Pruitt, Father Paul, same person, informs the churchgoers that they all have the angel's blood in their veins and encourages them to drink poison, to die and be reborn. And so we have this weird drink the Kool-Aid situation, right? Let's see. Several residents drink the poison, including Lisa's parents, Sturge, Uker, and Ali. Ali, who's the son of the sheriff. Mildred shoots Pruitt, and is Pruitt, who's the Monsignor, the actual the father, and is swooped out of the church by the angel. So Mildred was who's Mildred again? Anyway,
the old lady.
Yeah, the old lady. There you go. The undead churchgoers resurrect and attack those who haven't drunk the poison. Ed is turned while Aaron, Hassan, Lisa, Sarah, Warren, and Annie escape. Aaron shoots Bev before the group flees into town, and a resurrected Bev and Sturge unleash the undead churchgoers onto the remaining townsfolk. All right, so shit seriously hit the fan.
So what's happened here is Hassan, the town sheriff, who's a Muslim, his son's been getting into the Christian church, checking it out, and he's been a bit uncomfortable with it. But now he's looking at drinking the poison, and he don't want his son, obviously, to drink poison. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's got his gun out. He don't normally carry a gun. The sheriff's made a point of saying that because he's Muslim. He's just he always stays as clean as possible because he had a hard time in his career with that stuff. But he's happy to have a gun in church that day, and he has a go trying to get the demon, trying to stop him, from making his son take poison and whatnot, and let people out. And there's been a kerfuffle, and someone's got the gun, hasn't they? And it's like Father Paul has ended up getting shot in the head. So he was in charge of it all, wasn't he? But he's out of action. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of goes off the rails, doesn't it?
By the mother, by the old lady who somehow she's the one who's been resurrected. She's been her age has been reversed the most and stuff, obviously. But somehow she's the one who notices during his speech, his like Army of God speech. She's like, that we're not going back there. Like that's not the guy I knew. I mean, so she's the first one to sense like, no, whatever this guy's working for, it's not an angel, And like before, like with the fear thing, Rohan mentioned it earlier, but when Pruitt's trying to explain to Riley, like, no, this is good, like the guilt thing is okay, like getting rid of the guilt thing is okay, he like rattles off all the quotes about angels having like when the angel of the Lord appeared to them and they were afraid, or like, and when Zechariah saw him, he was terrified and overcome with fear, yada yada. Like they hammer the point home that like you're gonna feel afraid. You know what I mean? So this is like that's what kind of it adds to the confusion of these like full bore. They 100% are in belief, so they're doing the best they can to like their body's probably screaming to them, run. But they've been told by the book that they believe in that they told them, yeah, you're going to feel like you want to run, but don't run. You know what I mean? It's exactly what they wouldn't want to hear, like a plan for it.
Yeah, like exactly. Confirmation bias. It's like a little Jedi mind trick on yourself, isn't it? Exactly. Yeah, a bit like I bet that's how cults work.
Exactly. It could possibly be the ultimate cult, But then it just turns straight up to a vampire / zombie melee in a church. Like people who were dying from this poison. Everyone just hacking up blood, spitting up blood, and then waking up and like immediately just diving on people and biting into them and killing people. Characters that we've been knowing for like 5 episodes as this real peaceful island and stuff. It's really crazy. It went off the rails. It's crazy.
Some of them seem to know to cut themselves and feed the other person blood, and some of them didn't. And so some get resurrected and some don't, it seemed. I don't know if I got that wrong. Yeah,
and I think like it was because it was Easter. Like they made a point a few times during the show to be like, we got some heavy hitters who were coming here like every day. We got some people who were coming here on Sundays. Some people who come in here pretty much just on Christmas and Easter. Which like if you're a Catholic, you know that's a real thing. Like that it dwindles like that. You got the just the holiday people, we get the every Sunday people, and the ones who don't go at all. You know, and I think when it happens, when the transformation happens, or when like that, some of them they become the food basically. That like like Joe, when he was killed, he didn't come back because he wasn't going to church, so he wasn't getting the blood. But the ones who were going all the time, they're the ones who were revived, and they were feeding on the ones who weren't. You know, like But then if you, which was a weird thing, like if you were then bit, I don't know. Then if you were killed in any way, you'd then come back as a vampire. Though still, if you were drinking the blood, I mean, like even it gets a little bit murky. We'll get into that more, but it doesn't seem like beyond Father Pruitt in the beginning that it required. It's not like Anne Rice where you get drained and then you have to give the blood to the other person. It's like as long as you've been ingesting this blood at all during the sacrament at church, then when you die, you'll come back. I mean, like, which is different than the typical vampire mythology. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, because like you said, most of them already had it inside of them because they were taking the sacrament, so they were kind of prepped, to already be sort of that vampire. Yeah. I mean, and it literally is. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation because everybody that drinks the Kool-Aid or the poison, right, as it were, they come back as vampires because it's like the resurrection moment. But then they come back hungry as hell because they're like hungry for blood. So even if you don't take it, you're going to get eaten by the vampires that did. So, and they've locked all the doors, by the way. So I'm not sure. So what was the plan there? Didn't it seem like they had something else planned? Not that, because it turned into literally like just a bloody, murderous mess. Didn't it seem like they wanted something else out of that?
Yeah, I think that what the plan was, as Father Pruitt had been, as he'd gone through the process, okay, and realising, was thinking it was an angel, and he tried to coax Riley through the process, like counselling. And I think the plan was to lock everybody in so they can't go out and go eating people, and to shut all the curtains and stuff, and just lock everybody in the church while they go through the process and realise what they are. And then, do you know what I mean? And then now you're vampires, do you know what I mean? And explain to them what's happened. And because that's what he had to go through it. Like I say, I think he had a plan to train them through it, through the night, sort of thing. But instead, because he's out of action, because he's got shot, and is, by the way, he's still alive on the floor, eyes are moving, and they're saying, don't worry, you'll heal, we'll take care of it. So Beverly Keane, the mean, kind of dodgy lady, looks like she's got rid of bodies before and had all that the stashes of poison, in earlier episodes. She kind of takes over, and she decides to just let it, decide, well, the people aren't being coming, you're going to just die then, kind of thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
I see.
I think that was the deal.
Okay, so that makes sense now. So very much like he did with Riley, he spent the night with him, explaining to him, right? Kind of doing that. That's what he wanted to do. Keep them in there and explain and calm everybody down and not turn it into a shit show. But it turned into a shit show. Like by the end of it, there was blood all over the walls and all over everything. It looked like
it's a zombie melee, zombie vampire melee. Just
exactly.
People coming back from life, popping back up like a zombie, and then diving in full vampire.
Vampires.
Full vampires.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So got it. Okay. Then, all right. So then clearly the cat's completely out of the bag, but now Bev Keane takes over, who again was this judgmental Catholic lady, kind of the second in charge of the church forever. And, just not a nice person, which we'll get to in a moment here. But she ends up going to the back as the team of heroes try to escape. They get the front door of the church is locked, so they cut through the back. And she's back there waiting for them. All right. So here we go. Now let's read the rest.
I think that's basically what happened. Is that because he got shot, he wasn't there to reassure them, and then she kind of felt like he would have been the one to be able to handle them starting to change and starting to get aggressive. And as soon as she sensed they can smell my blood and they can hear my heartbeat, she just took off. And because she took off, there was nobody to talk anybody down. And it's just, as soon as they got hungry, they dove on somebody. Like the mayor, as soon as he got the urge, he just hopped on somebody, So she kind of caught, she was a big reason why it got as bad as it was.
Gotcha.
To save herself. Set it off and then she bailed, didn't she?
And then she bailed, exactly. The bailing made it even worse. Yeah.
So interestingly, we got another foreshadowing that she ended up being the coward in the situation.
Exactly.
All right. So then here's the final episode. Anything, James, on that? Now that shit hit the fan.
It sounds like she let the people that were not as faithful in her mind be the ones to die, and then so it was basically in her mind they deserved that.
Exactly. Exactly what it was.
Yes. Again, James, either we're really good storytellers or James is an intuitive. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. James is getting it.
James totally getting it. All right. What are the comments on this? No. What are the comments, James? What else you got?
And so I wonder if that was even her being much of a coward. Once everything started happening, she was like, okay, this will take care of itself. And whatever doesn't take care of itself, I'll take care of after if I need to.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, a bit more, because there was a bit of that as well. A bit of I'll wash my hands of this now. Then that's that done.
I mean, that's the way she explained. Spoiler for when we're going to be in 5 minutes, but that's how she explains it. It's when Father's waking up, she's like, yeah, it happened. He's like, why'd you let it happen like this? She's like, this is how it was supposed to happen. It happened like this because that's the way it was going to happen. I mean, she's like, she's like, I don't know. Sorry, thanks, God. But God's plan.
God has a plan, right? What did she say? Mm-hmm. Not to the effect of the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, but she's used some kind of biblical scripture.
She said, "Man plans and God laughs."
Yeah. Man plans and God laughs. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so then now this is the final episode 7. So now clearly the cat's out of the bag. The monster this monster flew off with the lady that shot the pastor. So the monster's no longer in the church. It's turned into a zombie apocalypse type situation. Worse than anything I've seen on The Walking Dead, by the way. If you want to see some grotesque shit, watch that scene because it went off the rails fast. And so it's like a white church and there's blood all over everything. And then
it's legit as well, like you said, it did not trying to force it. So that was a good point.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't too much, but it was just enough to be like, ooh, I wouldn't want to be there. All right.
And you earned it. It was 6 episodes into the show. I mean, you spent a lot of time sitting through mess. You know what I mean? And you got to get to this horror movie scene. I mean,
exactly.
It really paid its dues. Yeah.
Exactly. And Vicky says a while back, the old lady was warning people not to trust the priest. Thank you for that. I missed that on Rockford. Yeah. Okay, so all right, which then she shot the pastor, and then she got taken away by the by the demon or the vampire, as it were. Wink, wink. Okay, so now episode 7. This is the final. Now this is where it's good. It's good. Here we go. The now turned Mildred reunites with Pruitt. And the two were lovers years ago, and Sarah, the doctor, happens to be their daughter, which actually I was kind of picking up on a couple episodes prior. The dark hair, I was like, the way that Mildred knew that the Fire and Brimstone, Army of God guy was not the dude she knew. I was like, wait a minute, right?
It surprised me, honestly. It surprised me.
I kind of got the feeling they used to be husband and wife, and the doctor's their daughter. Yeah. That's what I kind of figured in the end.
Yeah.
He's a priest. He's a priest, so no, can't have any kids, no wives. So she was. I'm pretty sure.
Cool, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she was already married. I think they were in love, and she was married to somebody who went to war, and then they fell in love with each other because she was like an everyday priest, like everyday church girl, and he's a cool priest, and then they fell in love, got it on, and then he comes back from war, and they just don't say anything because like he came back messed up from war basically. And she's like I couldn't kill him, like I couldn't hurt him coming from war twice, And then, but like as soon as she said it, you go back to like the first episode or second episode, whatever, where Sarah's like talking to her girlfriend, looking at the priest, being like, "Yeah, he always like my old Monsignor always looked at me like that, like he knew." But then you realize he's really staring at her because it's his daughter, and he's just like staring and admiring his daughter growing up. You know what I mean, from afar.
Yeah. So again, some kind of callbacks to the rest of this. Okay, so then
it's well written. They really tie everything together.
I agree exactly, and we're about to see some of the things that James picked out previously are about to come to fruition. Here we go. Okay, so Pruitt confesses that he brought the angel to the island from the Holy Land, if you guys remember all that way back, to rejuvenate Mildred, right, who was actually his love, his lost love, so that the two of them could have a second chance to be together. Meanwhile, the few remaining unturned townspeople on Crockett Island set fire to the boats to prevent the turned churchgoers from leaving the island and spreading their contagion to the mainland. So those are the heroes here. They're like, okay, screw it. We're going to, like, they sent the boats out. We're going to burn them all, and they can't leave. They're stuck here, right? So brilliant plan strategically. I want them on my team. Very good stuff. Yeah. So Bev leads the turned churchgoers on a crusade across the island, killing anyone they can find. So now we go from straight like horrific zombie movie to like brown shirts, door to door, exactly like knocking on doors, and if people won't answer, they're kicking in doors and dragging them out to kill them and drink their blood. It turns into a
it was biblical. That's retard
calling, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Old Testament biblical. Want to elaborate on that real quick?
Like the angel of death coming door to door and taking people out of the houses and killing them. Like again, the angels that they talk about in the Bible aren't necessarily the ones that they paint on the walls of the chapels. Like they do some scary stuff. They lay cities to waste. At one point when Erin and Riley are talking, she is talking about her mother and how her mother was like a real piece of shit, and how she would like stitch pillows and stuff, and how like the Bible verse that she used on the pillow, rather than being like a cute Bible passage, she used like Lamentations or like some kind of quote from Revelation about how how God's going to destroy Jerusalem. I mean, like some kind of crazy like disaster setting, but it's foreshadowing to the idea that like this angel of death here is coming to destroy this island, like, and Bev is working in God's army for the angel of death, trying to burn it all down.
Burn it all down.
Bev goes off in this episode. She is a monster, but like the actress is crushing it. She's like, the way she's reading these Bible passages, like she is absolutely crushing it, the actress.
Yeah, the character is brilliant, and the actress is also brilliant, bringing that character to life. It is she's one of the highlights. She's the one that kind of gives you the willies. You know how you always have that church lady that's just like, ooh, God, I get the willies. She's always like staring through you and like judgmental, and, like trying to give you the Bible verse to tell you why you're the evil, the devil. It's you're the problem. She's like that, right? Yeah. But she doesn't say a lot.
She's great at twisting it and using those Bible quotes to fit the thing, and she's got that steely look. Yeah, so I'll give the shout to the actress is called Samantha Sloyan. That's her name.
Yeah. It's like, and like the way they like she's around the mechanic guy, whatever his name is, and he's like so much bigger, and the mayor's like so much taller, and she's wearing like the kind of like the nun outfit, and she's like so small, but she's literally using the Bible as like swords, and she's just slicing people, like especially in the last episode. She just like the way she's saying them, it's just like a scary apocalyptic preacher type like cadence and stuff, and she's just like whipping them out, and just like the writing of it, it's like they wrote the show, like they wrote the narrative based around like these horrifying stuff that's actually in the Bible, for her to explain it away by using these horrifying passages. I mean, it was really like, it was a wild show.
She's like a samurai with that stuff, man.
Yeah. That's pretty nuts. So as they're going door to door, murdering people, like literally murdering people. Like I said, we go from zombie movie to like the Nazis, door to door, biblical slaughtering people. Let's see, where are we at? Bev orders her followers. Pruitt, horrified by the violence. Pruitt, of course, is the Father Paul. Horrified by the violence, denounces Bev. And she, in turn, denounces him as a false prophet. Oh, Bev orders her followers to burn down everything on the church island except for the church and the town rec center, which she intends to use as a shelter for the turned churchgoers during the day, of course, because they're vampires now and they'll burn in the sunlight. So they need some sort of right place to have their coffin and have their cake and eat it too, as it were. Unfortunately, which we're going to get to in a bit, Aaron repeatedly, Sheriff Hassan, Sarah, and Aaron attempt to burn down the church and the rec center, which are the final two buildings on the entire island, because Bev has gone scorched earth and burned everything else down. So they're smart. They've burned down not just the boats now to keep them on the island and confined, but then they're also going back to risk themselves when they could possibly hide or try and get away, to burn down the final two buildings, the church itself and the rec center, where these vampires will hide. Okay, then Sturge shoots Sarah. Help me with this. Sturge he's the guy who's Sturge?
The mechanic guy.
The mechanic guy shoots Sarah. Bev mortally wounds Hassan, who's the sheriff. She shoots him. She takes the rifle, shoots him. And the angel attacks Aaron. So the angel makes its return. It flies back into this shit's burning down everywhere. There's like zombie sort of situations. They're now going door to door. There's blood everywhere. It's crazy. Now the angel comes back and attacks Aaron. And Aaron, of course, is the strong one. She went back when she could have ran. She was the one who had the option to run, and she went back to warn all them. And all of this is on her now. So, let's see. I'll leave that part out. Many of the churchgoers are appalled at what they have done to the town and abandon Bev's cause. So we have this split. Ali burns down the rec center, Ali's taken the blood now and is actually a vampire, but he turns back to his father, leaving no shelter for the turned churchgoers, while Pruitt and Mildred burn down the church after their father's death. Okay, well, now there's this one moment. Now back to that moment. This monster attacks Aaron, and it almost seems like she baited this. Like she knew, right? Like she was there for.
Oh wait a minute! Stop you, Mike. You got to do a little flashback. because there's the daughter who can walk again. You got to do a little flashback. They caught that thing feeding, that angel feeding on something, right? The girl that was able to walk again, and I think the sheriff's son, I think was there, wasn't it? Caught this angel feeding. And they tried to shoot it with a rifle. He started saying, no, it's go. But they tried to shoot it, and it didn't really feel a lot, did it?
Yeah.
That's right.
It bothered. Right. So I just dropped that in.
No, it's good. It's good. Go ahead. Sorry, Jack.
It stumbled into they stumbled into the house where that angel had killed the drug dealer, or whatever. Had snatched up the drug dealer in the first killing we see in the show, kind of from the angel. Or vampire. Or
and Joe as well, I think, found the bodies. Yeah.
The
people that didn't turn.
Yeah, so they go in the house and they see they see the carcasses and the people and everything, and that's when they see him feeding again, just full grasp, full wings all around, like completely just super hyper focused. And then they take a couple shots at it, and it basically just brushes it off like these bullets aren't going to do anything to me. And that's when we get Aaron seeing the same thing happening.
Yeah, like almost like she knew that, like she had a feeling, right? Like it's like that whole thing. So again, this thing when it's feeding, it doesn't divert. It's hyper focused. It's going to feed, and that's that. You can't. It's kind of like when you wake up somebody cranky, right? They kind of like just like wave their arm at you, like get away from me, I'm busy sleeping, right?
Yeah.
He was kind of like that, but he was feeding blood. So this thing comes at Aaron. Again, everything's burning down. Shit's hitting the fan. There's the final two buildings. Like this whole thing is culminating in basically everybody's dead. Like if these two final buildings burn down, the sun's about to come up, and everybody who is either a vampire has been eaten and drank the blood of, or they're about to get fried by the sun because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I think like for a second we got the vibe that like maybe we're gonna get like warring vampire factions. Like kind of the father was kind of breaking off, and he was gonna go with the mother one, and then like gonna kind of like rally the good people who had already drank the blood, but like we're gonna like reject the feeding on people versus like Bev's clan or whatever. But then because Sarah gets shot, father's like he tries to go and save her and like turn her into a vampire so she can live forever, and she goes, no, screw that, I'm not gonna lose my soul, I'm not gonna become a vampire. And then because his family is really like the whole motivation, his like which we learn is like the whole reason where he brings the angel back to the island is just for that woman. Like the family's most important. So once his daughter dies, he freaks out and he lights the church on fire, I'm pretty sure, right? And that's kind of when most of those other characters kind of, like you're saying, everyone's either a vampire or dead at this point.
I think that was the moment where Father Paul's it says to everyone, I've made a mistake. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. Yeah. And that causes the split. And it turns out it's the sheriff. I mean, that Beverly Keane, she likes to torture people. She's very cruel, and she shot the sheriff, the Muslim sheriff.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And his son was holding a Zippo lighter. It was lit, and the heroes that have been going around setting the boats on fire so they can't be able to escape and spread the vampires. Well, they've been sneaking around the back setting fire to these last remaining buildings. Putting petrol in there. So the Muslim kid has got the Zippo right there. He's getting into Christianity. He's got the choice, and so of course she's trying to encourage him to choose Christianity. Do you know what I mean? But he's like, no, screw this, mate. He's seeing it's not right, and he's looking at his dad. He's like, yeah, screw it. So he throws that Zippo in and just sets the last remaining buildings on fire.
They got Zippos in the UK. Just checking. Just check. You said Zippo. You threw the Zippo in. You got Zippos in the UK.
Zippo, yeah, man. Yeah, reliable. They come with a lifetime warranty.
I was about to say lifetime warranty, bro.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
I didn't get a Zippo. I never had one before.
Yeah, they
I burned
the hinges are amazing.
Out of style.
I totally
crank the lighters.
Yeah. So if you don't have a lighter, guys, we're not sponsored by Zippo, but get a Zippo. All right, here we go.
And Zippo, if you're listening, we'll take the sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're listening, Zippo. All right.
Yeah, we're interested.
Yeah. We're small time here, but we're looking to go pro. All right. So now the shit's burning down, right? It's crazy now. Now Erin, it seems like she's there kind of standing off in the middle of nowhere, right? It seems like she could be burning shit down. She could be throwing gas on stuff, and she already did that. But it seems like she's out there in the middle, sort of baiting this moment. And so this creature, the demon, the angel, whatever the hell this thing is, the vampire, flies in, and she's like the only one who hasn't really been afflicted, right? The sheriff has been shot. Most everybody around him are dead or vampires, and so she's kind of like one of the only like fresh bloods left. And this thing zips in and hits her, knocks her down, and starts just drinking her blood like crazy. And previously, before they were about to escape and get their plan to burn everything down, they were handing out little knives from the kitchen. Just in case, right? Yeah. And they said, they're like, what are these going to do? And they're like, buy us seconds or minutes. You never know, right? So anybody want to finish this out with exactly what happens here?
Well, I mean,
Nightstocker.
Yeah. So we see her, the vampire, just really diving into her neck. He's like feeding on the blood. Like the thirst is all this he's thinking about. It's the same as before. And then all of a sudden, we see her hand go down to her waist, whatever. She pulls the knife out and starts to cut these holes into his wings, and like all we see is like the wings, and just the kind of poke through this like rubbery. It's weird. Like it's clearly this like latexy like monster suit, but the way that the latex like bends to the knife and like has to gets cut through with the knife just works for the show. It's so creepy and just so weird. So she just like starts slicing these holes all throughout both of the wings, and like he starts to notice and like turn his head, and she keeps like pushing his head back towards her neck, and it's like almost this weird like gross like sexual connotation to it, and it's a creepy scene, really creepy. But she pokes a bunch of holes in this vampire's wings, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, chops him up. And so again, right,
chops him up.
Remember that he's not like once he's focused, which we learned previously, which again is a nice kind of callback. It was just 10 minutes prior or whatever when they shot him, he wouldn't stop feeding even if he got shot. So it's almost like she knew, or at least had a hunch, and so she's chopping up his wings while he's just devouring her. So that goes down. All right, let's see where we go. Let's see. So as dawn approaches, the remorseful townspeople, led by Ed and Annie Flynn, which is Riley's parents, by the way, gather to be immolated by the rising sun. Ali and Hassan reconcile and perform one last salah prayer, with Hassan finally succumbing to his wounds mid-prayer. Pruitt and Mildred hold hands to watch the sunrise, while Bev desperately attempts to dig a hole on the beach for shelter. Now, before we finish this up and wrap this thing, now notably the Riley's parents, very much like James picked out earlier, said it's not a normal thing when you get vampires kind of in any kind of stories or history, whatever, kind of eschew the first feeding and choose to die instead. And interestingly, we have this moment where his parents reunite. All right. Actually, before we get there, you guys want to do the Bev's a bad person? Somebody want to do that real quick? I think it's probably important to this. Remember that? Anybody remember that? All right, so just real quick. So when they were getting together, handing out the knives before they got the plan and stuff.
Oh yeah. The mother. So they're having the confrontation, and Riley's mother.
Yeah, she's they're like, we're gonna go burn the boats. They handed out knives. Aaron's like, Bev's knocking at the door and saying, "We know you're in there. Come out." Aaron volunteers and says, "I'll go. I'll buy us the time." And Riley's mother says, "No, I've got this," and she sends them away. And what happens here? This is a nice final foreshadowing as we finish this sucker up. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, she just being like, you're not better than everyone else. You're not like, God doesn't like you. God doesn't love you and hate everyone. You can't choose to save. He's not choosing to save some people and choosing to kill everybody else. Like you're not better than everybody. And then the mother really is awesome. She's like one of my favorite characters in the show. She's like so nice, and like as she gets younger, she gets cuter and cuter, and like she's a great job. Yeah. And then she stabs a neck into her throat and kills herself, and then she wakes up as a vampire or whatever. Which I don't really understand what the purpose was of that. Like why not just, I don't know,
like attack Bev.
Buying the time and kind of putting her in a place in a really, really sweet way, rather than putting people down with Bible quotes in a stern way. It was like her opposite, and it like.
I mean, like why stab herself in the neck though?
Yeah.
Like.
I don't know. Maybe it was like to be shocking and to buy time, and so she wouldn't expect it. Like, say, what else can you do, sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of like a final FU. But it's a fantastic scene. So she volunteers to go out and buy them time to escape and burn the boats. It's Riley's mother. Now remember, Riley didn't feed. He chose to die instead. His mother does a similar sort of sacrifice by doing exactly this. And it is one of the best scenes. She walks out there and she tells Bev, you are not a good person. And Bev says, well, that was uncalled for.
Yeah.
As everything's burning down, vampires, zombie shit, like dead people everywhere, door to door massacres. Yeah, it was pretty funny, right?
Well, that's not nice.
After she just he shamed the crap out of this guy who hadn't been coming to church and don't know what the hell's going on, and is terrified because he thinks he's just eating his family. And they're like, "Well, you're just a bad person.
that was crazy.
Yeah. She just really lays into it, and then immediately she's saying, "Well, that's not a very nice thing to say." You think you're just the meanest person ever, dude.
Yeah.
But that scene you're talking about was crazy when that one guy he was in like the earlier scene where they were protesting bringing the Bible into school. He was like one of the ones who was on the side of the sheriff, and he comes out and he's like covered in blood and stuff, and he's freaking out. He's like, "What the hell's going on? What the hell's going on?" And he's like, "I didn't go to church at all. Like I never like drank this blood and stuff." And I guess he was like killed, but then like fed the blood from the mechanic guy to like keep him to bring him back to life. And it was like he like kind of like so from that guy's perspective, he was like saving him, but he was really cursing him with this vampire illness because immediately he gets the hunger and goes and kills his whole family. And he like tortured. He's like, "What the hell's going on? I was just murdered, and then I woke up and I killed my whole family. And what the hell happened? The island's on fire."
And then when someone explains to him, he says, he was always nice to me. And she's like, "Well, you're not allowed. You're not allowed in the church. He's like, you're just gonna have to burn up outside. Deal with it," kind of thing. It's like she's just the arbitrator. She's like she's just took over the court, sort of thing. She
represents the dogma in religion. I mean, like Father Pruitt represented at least at aspects like trying to find like the good stuff to get you through the day type of parts of religion, and Bev represents like all the shitty parts that like is everything wrong with religion, basically.
Yeah, like the
dogma.
And at the end, she was just relishing in the fact that she was able to pick lots, right? She wanted to decide.
Exactly.
She was the one who wanted to say, "I never saw you in church, so you die, you burn in the sun," right? Like that's what she was loving it. She thought she was God dealing out judgment, right? Because she knew better. And again, a lot of religious connotations, a lot of like pretty beautiful what would you call it? Like metaphors, allegory, and just the way it kind of wraps up is that there's, I guess in the end, right? We're going to get to how this finishes, but like the morals here are that you take an institution and it could go north or it could go south, right? It kind of just depends. And you could be, you could be benevolent with the Bible, or you can be just a hateful bastard with the Bible. It just, it's not necessarily what it is. It's right how you approach it. It's how you, right? Like how you try and help people or not, or, Anyway, I said that point, but yeah.
No, exactly. And, Riley's dad, like the last time we see the parents, I think, is like when he's explaining to the mother, like, I want to feed, like I'm really, really hungry, but I haven't eaten anybody. And she's like, no, me either. And he's like, they make it like when I saw them all transforming and killing each other in the church, like I thought you had no choice. I thought it was just you become immediately this monster and it's mindless. But he's like, no, you can fight it. And it's like, so one of the takeaways is like, don't completely give away yourself. Like don't like let something take you over like that. Like I don't know, every time anybody kind of like let go and let God, or like I don't know, they put themselves, they got the blood sucked from them, or they killed somebody or something. I don't know, like don't
follow the herd. Don't follow
the herd exactly.
Blindly.
Lose your humanity. Hold your integrity. Hold the line.
Hold your integrity. Exactly. Yeah. Do trust your intuition. If you see a monster and your intuition tells you to get the hell out of there, that's probably the best idea. Run away from it.
And
what's your gut saying?
Yeah.
And there's your allegory, by the way. A monster doesn't have to be a monster. A monster can be a person. So
exactly.
There's your slam dunk. Okay, so then as this finishes, right? So again, right, with the foreshadowing, Riley didn't eat. He decided as a vampire he was going to give information instead, send notes to his loved ones and die. His parents did the same thing. They didn't feed. There was a moral fiber to them where they decided not to follow that crowd and that the rest of the madness here. Okay, so as it finishes then, so Erin's getting chewed up by this monster that's now just drinking her blood like crazy. She's trimming up its...
And then it's not easy. That the easiest thing to do is just to let this demon take your guilt away and just give in to this overwhelming thirst and like to the AA thing, like they were dealing with addiction and stuff. Yeah, like if you're an addict, you're never going to wake up and not crave the thing that you're addicted to. It's hard, but like you have the power, not some demon angel monster that's going to give you the power. You know what I mean? Like it's on you. It's inside you. It may be hard, but like that's what it's all about. Like put in the work and do the right thing. Don't like trust the demon angel to tell you the right thing to do. You know?
Right.
Sorry,
exactly.
that's it.
No, you're good. You're good. You want to finish this up, Rohan? Anything else that we got to add here that as this wraps down to the final hour?
Yes. Yeah. So so Riley Flynn then, who burns up in the boat initially to let his love know. Okay, he's got a little brother, hasn't he? And he escapes with that Lisa who can now walk again. And they're off to get to the boats, aren't they? They got some rowboats. They're off to try and get off the island, aren't they? And so while all hell's breaking loose and everyone knows they're going to die, they're just hoping that they're going to make it to the boats, and then it's like, oh, we'll never know. So they just decide, oh, let's just hope that they do, and they do, don't they? We see them watching the fires from the rowboats. So it seems as if we never get to find out, but it looks like they got away. Do you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a happy ending bit there.
Right, exactly. And so basically everything's a wrap. We have the Father Pruitt and his second chance at life is squandered, even though he came back to maybe get a second chance with his love and his daughter. It's all messed up. Everything's on fire. There's nowhere for them to sleep. Everybody's going to be burned in sunup in just several minutes. It's on the way. You can see like the brightness of the sun kind of rising from the east. And then this monster realizes, oh, shit. Right? Like looks around as he's feeding, which of course, again, Aaron continues to put his mouth back on her neck to keep him enthralled, because every remember, again, foreshadowing, when they handed out the knives, they said precious seconds, right? Minutes, even seconds may count. And so it did, because of course, well, this monster realizes far too late, holy shit, the sun's coming up and there's nowhere for me to take shelter, because everything is on fire on this entire island. All the boats are on fire. All the buildings are on fire. And so he takes off. And so we see him trying to fly away with broken wings. Is that a biblical thing? Or is that a song?
Oh, yeah, it's too much
thing. Yeah.
Take these broken wings. Anyway. So again, Lisa and Riley's little brother, I can't remember his name, are sitting in the boat watching everything burn, and they see this monster flying away, but struggling to fly. Because he's got broken wings. Yeah. There you go. Robert says, Mr. Broken wings.
Bunch of holes in it, and the gauge in it, Lord. They're like, no, he's not going to be able to outrun the sunrise. Do you know what I mean? The calculator's like looking, because they're about to do the rowboats and fishermen's and that, and they're like, no, that's 30 miles. He's got to make 30 miles, and like, nah, not doing it.
No,
but it's still up in the air. Like there's that ash or whatever that we see, but is that the ash from the bodies on the beach, or is that supposed to be the ash from the vampire that's flying through the sky? You mean, like, is there a chance that he made it? Like,
yeah, I
to another land?
I think it was just symbolic, right? Kind of the ash, like ashes to ashes, dust to dust sort of thing. So they're sitting in the rowboat and the ash starts raining on them because the whole damn island's on fire. But the monster flew in a different direction. I think it's intentionally ambiguous, right? Was that the the monster? Well, it depends on how much money this series made.
Exactly, yeah. And these kids, Lisa and the boyfriend, have technically the blood in them still. Like, so if the demon dies, does that no longer? If somebody was to shoot them, like Bev was never bitten by a vampire. Bev was shot, and because she had the blood in her, she just woke up as a vampire, or as whatever, as an immortal who has to drink blood. So if somebody was to shoot Lisa and that kid, the same thing would happen to them, because Lisa was drinking more blood than anyone. She was one of the everyday people, and the kid was an altar boy. He was there every Sunday for sure.
Yeah.
So is this now a way to spread it to the mainland? You know what I mean? They lived there on the mainland, and possibly also the angel demon thing, like for the sequel.
Oh, so So it's almost like there's a watered down, there's a version of the phage, let's call it, in them, like this illness, this virus thing, that's not quite enough to turn them over into a vampire, but it could still go out there and get into other people.
It could carry the vampiric germ still, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then somebody else has got maybe, just set possibilities.
Yeah, notably too.
Well, if they die, if they die, they come back having to feed on blood right away, right? Like if somebody was to shoot them, like they shot Bev, they would wake up bloodthirsty, right?
True, because I think that was the catalyst. It's like the miracle is that resurrection. It turns them into that vampire because there's no choice at that point. They have to come.
There's no choice, exactly.
And the cure is the cure. So I think, though, also she's sitting there in the boat with Warren's the guy's name. I checked it out. That's Riley's little brother. And she says to him, as this ash is coming down, I can't feel my legs. So it's like, remember? So
that made me think, that's what it was. So that made me think that the ash was the vampire and that the vampire died. So everything good that came out of these miracles that had a catch that were not actually good, they were to serve his darker agenda, were reversed because he died.
Exactly.
I missed that bit saying with the legs, being able to not feel the legs anymore, so the legs don't move. I missed that bit, so that makes you then wonder if it's a miracle. Then, if it's maybe it is an angel. Then is actually we're calling it a vampire. Maybe no, it's actually an angel, and it's the miracles, like say, are gone because he's gone, so the magic's gone, so the manifestation is gone. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So that's the end. There's a couple loose ends we got to get to, but James, you've been awfully quiet listening. What's up, buddy? Go right ahead, buddy.
Well, I just want to say I've heard in different stories here and there, stories about after these vampires disintegrate, over time they can rebuild.
Ooh, you stick a
I don't know,
a stake in their heart, don't you?
Even then, it's like that's part of why they're called immortal.
Yes. There's some other ways. We'll at the end here we'll throw our theories about why they may have a season 2. But yeah, definitely. What are your other thoughts, man? We covered tons of stuff there in that last episode.
I do think that is telling that the girl, she can't feel her legs again, does make me think that she and maybe the Warren, maybe that they're okay and there's nothing.
Yeah, they're cured. Yeah, I forgot that part.
Yeah, it makes me think that they're probably normal now again.
Yeah, same.
The only thing I could think of also is if there were any kind of basements, underground parts of that island, where anyone could have gotten to. I don't know if they showed everyone ending or not, but
yeah, nothing like that we saw. Nothing that we saw for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. That's really about it. I mean, that sounds amazing. That's some really good writing about the whole thing.
Yeah, if you get the time, I encourage you to listen to it. I know, give your eyes a rest. Just give it a listen, man. There's some really brilliant scenes as we wrap this up. So a couple things before we get to the final end scene here with the conversation. We go back to the conversation here with Aaron and Riley, but there's a couple notable things. One, in that not only were Riley's parents pure, meaning that even though they became damned, as it were, with the blood of the vampire or the demon or whatever this thing was, they still didn't feed. They chose not to. They chose to be righteous instead and not take life. Also, by the way, so did Ali, who was the son of the sheriff, right? And so it kind of wraps all that back around to you don't have to follow the herd mentality sort of thing. But then there's the final scene with Bev, and she's on the beach. It's all burned down, and there's nowhere to go, and there's no boats, and the demon is flown off, vampire, whatever this thing is, and she's sitting there on the beach watching the Muslims pray together. And she's still just like with hate in her heart, just viewing them and just, right? But then fear overtakes her because she understands what's coming. The sun is coming up. And what does she do, right? As the entire town is together in the town square singing a hymn, right? They're singing a religious song, basically praising God for what they have, right? Bev is on the beach by herself, staring at a rising sun, digging frantically into the beach itself to try and save what precious moments she has left, right? You see the
digging was so good. The digging was a great touch.
Yeah. So you know, there's like the other folks have come together and realized that, hey, we made a mistake and we're going to just go out the best way we can. And Bev is the
with grace.
With grace. There it is. There's the term, with grace. And Bev's the exact opposite, right? Anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, because they all...
she's goes straight to the darkness, isn't she? She's frantically trying to get back into the darkness, into the shadows, which is kind of where metaphorically she kind of works. She's like a behind the scenes kind of creepy, meanie person, isn't she? Sly, you know, so trying to slither away.
Yeah. And they all truly had faith, like all these like sheep, whatever, all the ones who were duped into killing themselves and drinking the blood, and this sheep that were herded, they believed, they had faith, and she's the one who was wrangling them and was hurting them and spitting all this venom coming out of the Bible. But when the chips were down and the sun was coming up, and she's like, they all thought, okay, I'm going to die, but I'm going to heaven now. Like, it's over. This life's over, but we're going to the other side that we spent our whole life preparing for. She had that moment. She was about to die, and she goes, "Oh shit! I don't think I believe. I got to dig a hole and get out of this." I mean, like, oh shit! She was faced with that moment of like, this is what it's all about. Like, you're gonna go see the Creator, and she, like, I mean, either that or it's nothing, and try to survive. And she's like, oh.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like she was realising, I am a bad person. Plus, if in the earlier episodes there was mention of Joe. John was, after his first AA meeting, he's feeling good. He was joking about her, saying, oh, yes, she's mentioning her in embezzlement and stuff. He's saying she's a bit crooked, you know. So it's like she's getting to face it, all that preaching. She's got to, she comes to face the Creator, she don't want to do it because guilty.
Or she just doesn't believe. She doesn't have faith that it is better, that they all thought that there was some kind of prize at the other side. Like, whether I'm not sure if she thinks that she's going to hell. It's just like I don't know if she necessarily believes that there is an afterlife like that. She doesn't have the faith to die like that the rest of them do. Like, she has doubt, but she's the one who was shaming everyone who had doubt. You know what I mean? Like, to the point of causing them to all turn into monsters, you know?
Right, because it wasn't about that for her. It was about having an elevated position
power
and judging people. Exactly. It wasn't about any of those things. She knew the scripture better than anybody else, but she understood it the least, and that's what all of this was about. Very, very good stuff.
Exactly.
Right. That's totally like, and it's so typical too. It's so typical. It's just like, you know, like it's like in the end, she didn't believe in forgiveness. She didn't believe it was there for her because she didn't have it in her own heart. Right. And I think that's what it's all about. Yeah. And so she was terrified because she knew she didn't have it, even though she said all the right words. She didn't do all the right actions, and she was not prepared. And then, so a couple, again, we did the Ali thing and them standing up and the Muslim faith and that whole bit, right? I kind of like that at the end, how Ali stood up and was like, even though he made mistakes, he was just like Riley and Riley's parents. He understood the mistakes and decided to stand by his father. I love that touch. What else? I think, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, the final conversation. The final conversation, which is amazing, which is, as good as this was, this final bit may take the taco. This was an incredible final conversation.
It's a wild speech that she gives. Yeah. And it ties in pretty nicely to tonight's Troubled Minds, too.
To a ton of stuff we do on Troubled Minds. I was listening to this with eyes wide open like, oh, shit, we talk about this stuff all the time. Who wants to tackle this? Why don't the two of you tackle this? Because I got to go tinkle because I've been standing here for a long time. But you guys start this. I'll be right back. And then we want your thoughts on this as well, James. Get it, guys.
I have the the speech right here. If you want me to just like kind of read.
Oh, thank goodness.
Perfect.
I got it.
Perfect.
So great.
Okay. So during the earlier in the speech, like episode 4 or whatever, there was a huge scene about Aaron and Riley like explaining to each other what they think happens when you die, and like he explains like the whole neuron thing, and like you get this big kind of DMT trip, kind of your last perfect dream as you kind of fizzle out to nothingness, and then she talked about like how like the more of a heavenly aspect, and then she kind of gives, as she's like dying from this mortal wound on her neck and stuff, she's like the world's ending. This is what she says, kind of. I think this is the beginning. Myself. That's the problem. That's the whole problem with the whole thing. That word self. That's not the word. That's not right. That isn't. How did I forget that? When did I forget that? The body stops a cell at a time, but the brain keeps firing these neurons, these lightning bolts, little fireworks inside, and I thought I'd disappear or feel afraid. And I don't feel any of that. None of it. Because I'm too busy. I'm too busy in the moment, remembering. Of course. I remember that. Every atom in my body was forged in a star. This body is mostly empty space after all. And solid matter is just energy vibrating very slowly. While there is no me. There never was. The electrons in my body mingle and dance with the electrons of the ground below me and the air I'm no longer breathing. I remember there is no point where any of that ends and I begin. I remember I am energy. Not memory, not self. My name, my personality, my choices all came after me. I was before them and I'll be after. And everything else is pictures picked up along the way. Fleeting little dreamlets printed on the tissue of my dying brain. And I am the lightning that jumps between. I am the energy firing the neurons. And I'm returning. Just by remembering, I'm returning home. And it's like a drop of water falling back into the ocean, which has always been apart. All things apart. You, me, and my little girl, my mother, my father, everyone who's ever been, every plant, every animal, every atom, every star, every galaxy, all of it. More galaxies in the universe than grains of sand on the beach. And that's what we're talking about when we say God. The cosmos and its infinite dreams. We are the cosmos dreaming of itself. It's simply a dream that I think is my life, every time. But I'll forget this time. I always do. I always forget my dreams. But now in the split second, in the moment I remember, the instance I remember, I comprehend everything at once. There is no time. There is no death. Life is a dream. It's a wish made again and again and again and again and again and again into eternity. And I'm all of it. I'm everything. I am all. I am that I am. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty stuff. It's that consciousness stuff, isn't it? It's
we talk about it all the time.
That we talk about this stuff all the time. There's so many things that tie together, and it links you in. In fact, that even triggers me to remind me of William Blake, the auguries of perception. It reminds me of that in infinity in your hand, in the sort of thing. That little quote. Yeah. Terence McKenna used to. It's like, infinity in a grain of sand, isn't it? Sort of thing. The fractals, man.
You're the universe experiencing itself. Mm-hmm. A drop of water in the ocean that was never separate from it. You know what I mean? Which I was like, some reason when she said that, it made me think like a drop in a bucket or whatever, a drop in the ocean. That always made me like in my mind. I would just imagine a drop of water falling back into the ocean. But like when she said it, it just like it clicked that like it's a drop of water that is still in the ocean, but it just forgets that it's the ocean and just thinks it's a drop, you know. And just that separation goes away, you know, and it realizes, you know. It's a great speech. Really good stuff.
It was pretty wild. I thought the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes when that was going down, I thought we had literally transitioned into a Troubled Minds episode.
I know.
Right? Yeah. I was really like, oh my God, like what is going on here? Like
me too.
Minds, right? It's a lot, right? It's all the same stuff, and it's I think they did a lot right. It's a monster movie, 7 episodes, the whole deal. We got blood and fire and brimstone and the whole bit. We got the demons and the monsters, but we got some beautiful too. There were some amazing thoughts, some people doing the right thing, and then again that speech at the end, that just transcendence of. Right? Where do we go? Yeah. Well, I mean, it was pretty gorgeous. If you guys haven't seen it, it's worth watching. Even if you're not like into bloody monster movie type stuff, it wasn't that bad, like gore wise, but it's worth it for that final moment because it definitely.
I hate gore myself. I'm not a big gore guy, and I can handle this. There's blood. I mean, they're vampires, they're drinking blood, but it's not soft. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
Gratuitous detail. It's not like, it's not drawing it out and trying to make it really bad.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anything to add to that, Rohan, before we go to James and wrap this sucker up?
No, go straight to James. No, go ahead.
That's an amazing speech at the end there. I totally agree with that. And I like that. I like that it went to all those places, because it seems like not a ton of shows do. Seems like that's a rare thing overall. And yeah, I also like, in a way, and even though it's sad, I kind of like that it wasn't your stereotypical hero comes and saves the day and then they all live happily after.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I've just gone through too many stories or what, but
Yeah.
that kind of story to me doesn't feel as interesting or as realistic in a way. Is something where things change more than they really. Everything is happily ever after.
Yeah.
So, but I do like that there's hope. I'm not saying there's not hope, but I like that there's a mix of everything in there.
Yeah, telling a story well. So predictions.
I think. Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. You got a comment on that, and then we'll do. When you're done, we'll do predictions on season 2 if it's coming.
Okay. I was gonna say, it makes it. I would vote with James there. Yeah, it makes it more realistic, doesn't it? And I think, like I say, that's what real life would be. There'd be a mixture of stuff happening, wouldn't there? So that was a good point.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's tough. Like, they make the main characters. They all make really hard choices, and everything good that comes out of, like, the story is painful. They got there in a painful way, and then all the characters obviously end in a bad place.
The lines have been blurred intentionally, haven't they, to make it grey areas, to have an ethical dilemma kind of show,
It's telling you that the easiest path, like the one that would be easiest, is just to give in to that power or whatever, like the guilt-free drinking the blood and being evil and living forever. But the right thing to do was to, like, maybe suffer a little bit and ignore this thirst that you have, and, like, deal with a little bit of pain, maybe go through some anguish because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? And not, like, I don't know. It felt right to them. Like, they trusted their gut, and they didn't just go with what the establishment was telling them to do, even though they knew in their heart that it was wrong.
Yeah.
And even the kids at the end. I mean, it's great that they got away, but that, and they're basically orphans now.
Yeah.
Everybody they know. They're on an island of 130 people or whatever, and all of them besides them are dead. So everybody they ever met most likely is gone.
Yeah. So how are they going to explain that to any authorities on the mainland?
And she's paralyzed again.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
So.
Probably really traumatized as well. It's like they're kind of on their own, aren't they? It's like, say what they're going to say. They're going to have to. What do you do?
Yeah.
Imagine.
She can handle it though. Lisa, she can handle it.
Yeah, she's
tough.
Tough as hell. Imagine that debrief when they're being interviewed after the fact. They're like, "Wait,
get her on the podcast. Tell that story on the podcast."
Exactly. Who was the vampire? What happened?
What did it look like? You said an angel looked like what?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're done. That's the story, guys. Now, look, this is the thing. This is again, we're calling this Troubled Minds Roundtable. I don't know. We don't have a name for this yet. I'm calling it Zeitgeist Discussions. Well, but you're invited to this. Again, everybody here is invited back. We're not going to lean on people too much because, again, I know everybody's got schedules and things, but you guys are all invited if you want to do one. We got Dune coming up. Rohan and I have talked about Stargate, things like this. There's lots of things to talk about coming up in the Zeitgeist, and it doesn't have to be super long. It could be just a movie sort of situation or whatever. So just to let you know, this is kind of a special sort of addition to Troubled Minds, and thank you again so much to Derek in Massachusetts. That's the Nightstocker. Rohan in the UK. Thank you so much. James in Michigan and thank you guys for spending your time with us. I know, like I said, that everybody's busy, and so I'm honored. We're blessed that you guys are here tonight with us, and thank you so much for spending that time. I think this journey was worth it. This was one of those good stories, like James said, was very well written, and it had a payoff at that end. Man, that end was like boom. That was fireworks.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
It was really great.
Yeah, really great. Good stuff. I'm glad that shout out to my lovely wife, Mrs. Strange, who actually turned me onto the show and said, you should probably.
Hell yeah. Shout out Mrs. Strange.
Yes, absolutely. So let's final thought, James, and then let's go to final thought, James, and your prediction on whether there's a sequel here and how it might play out.
Well, it's I'm actually interested in listening to that series now at some point. I don't have Netflix, but I may have to get it. But it sounds very interesting. As far as predictions go, like I said, it comes down to the idea in certain stories that vampires can come back to life even after they've been dissolved or whatever to ash or to. A lot of times it seems like it's dust. Excuse me. So I think that's a possibility. I think that's really the main thing. Is whether or not that creature is actually dead or not. That's what it kind of all hinges on as far as a direct sequel.
Like
unless they focus on the kids and do something with them maybe further on where they get involved in another paranormal type situation.
Yeah, cool.
So
that's it for me.
Okay, I have to add. So you're saying that vampires are hard to kill, like Steven Seagal?
Yeah, well, they can be. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just making sure. too easy to pass that one up. All right, Derek or Rohan, whoever wants to go.
Rohan, go ahead.
Prediction on a sequel or not?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it kind of, I'm only half joking, but like, it all depends on Benjamin Franklin, doesn't it? Really, it seems to depends on the dollar, how much money it makes. But I think it's a good stuff. I think it's well written. In a way, I'm kind of hoping it won't be, because like it's written for this amount of time and that's it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just, I always get worried that it's going to be watered down and rubbish the second time. Yeah, but we'll see. So I don't know. I want to say no, and please don't.
Don't do it. All right, Derek.
Same. Like they're calling it a limited series, which is like a new streaming Netflix type thing to do, which is like basically just taking a movie idea and stretching it into 7 or 8 parts. And we are getting sometimes like 2-season limited series and stuff, but for the most part, it's supposed to be just a one and done kind of BBC style. Just this is it. But with that being said, it's a huge success. So if they were to connect it to kind of with the same universe, maybe I would want to see like maybe a different angle. Somehow, like maybe take the sheriff character and maybe find like a connection to like maybe a flashback with him and what was going on at his old job, or maybe bring in some Muslim like scary mythology too, like the way I'm sure there's got to be some kind of the same way angels can be demons in this way. There's got to be facsimiles in every religion to that type of stuff, which I'd be down to explore that. But
great point, because it looked as if it was from the Middle East, that angel in.
Oh yeah.
Because it was the wailing, wasn't it? So it's like he's followed him all the way.
Yeah.
But as far as like what's going to happen, the makers of the show, Mike Flanagan, he made the show in The Haunting on Hill House, or of Hill House, which I haven't seen, but it was a big Netflix thing like 3 or 4 years ago, like pretty vile. But they just got they signed on to do The Fall of the House of Usher, which is an Edgar Allan Poe series. But like rather than just the one short story, they're doing like a bunch of different like short stories, all bunch of Edgar Allan Poe short stories all in one. So, which I'm definitely down for. The same kind of tone, same kind of like aesthetic, but
hell yeah.
shot through Edgar Allan Poe's prism. Like I'm down for that.
Write it well. Here's my prediction, because it was so incredibly popular. Everybody's talking about it. It's Squid Game is one of they're saying the best, the highest rated Netflix show ever. But Midnight Mass isn't too far behind, even in a limited series. I'm thinking they come back with a sequel at some point, and here's my prediction. Our demon is back. Here's why. So as he's flying away, right, he doesn't have any options. He either burns up in the sun, or what does he do? He plunges into the depths of the ocean and avoids the sunlight until nighttime, and then he comes back. So we do know that he had the ability to survive for a very long time without eating, possibly even breathing, because he was underground in that covered temple or cave or whatever that was. Right? So if that was thousands of years without food, without air, without water, probably you dump plunging into the ocean for a the 12-hour till the sun goes down situation. I think is probably well within its wheelhouse there. And just like James said, vampires are hard to kill.
Maybe he'll keep dying and then coming back, and then dying and coming back for 24 hours, like 12 hours until you've got the darkness. I like that. And then maybe, because I was wondering, maybe if he's been there for ages, he's going to be really hungry and parched. You think if this angel keeps eating over time, he might start looking more and more human. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, and there's if they really want to, like, there's I can picture like him kind of like suffering, kind of like trying to stay alive all in the water, and kind of like feeding on fish while fish are feeding on him, and kind of like his blood getting into the food supply somehow, like the into the fish supply, maybe like getting this vampire gene into the city. But like also, he's not the only angel in heaven. If he's that's really where he's from. I can see some other if that's Gabriel, some kind of Michael character coming down and helping him out and going to take revenge on something. You know what I mean? Midnight Mass 2, Angel's Revenge, like something like that.
Think about that.
Or they might have some divine mission, and it's come and help complete this thing, and they start doing weird stuff, and people don't know what it's about because they've got something to do.
Or I'd rather like stay on the island, flashback 50 years, and just hit me with another paranormal story. Don't make it biblical. Tell me about some other, like, I think one of the first things when all those cats died, they told us that there was also the like the birds that died, the starlings, and then also the dolphins that washed up too. So like those are before the vampire came, and the dolphins also had gashes on their neck. So is this not the first monster to pop up on this island? And I would watch that story.
Maybe one is still there somewhere.
And then you get the same actor, and you just play him on his actual age. So flashback 50 years, and he's a 30-year-old again. Still, same actor.
Right, yeah. I dig it. Yeah, I love the ideas. And again, thanks you guys for spending all your time with us. It's been one of those days, right? One of them long Monday marathons.
Long day, yeah.
But I'm not complaining. Yeah. I am thrilled we got to get through this because, like I said, this was one of the ones I was very happy to watch and very happy to spend our time talking about that with you guys. So thanks again. We're playing some outro music, and final thoughts, gentlemen. Music is on.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It was really, really fun, and it really added another layer when like having to watch it for a purpose and like doing the splitting into two parts and everything. Everything about it added to the experience of it, and it was really fun talking with you guys about it. Normally, I'm just having the conversation around watching TV and movies now has just become, have you seen blank? So when we get to actually really deep dive into something together, it's really fun. So everyone toss out your suggestions too. I want to hear you guys talk more than me. So what do you want to watch? I'll watch it with you, and I want to hear you talk about it.
Amen, brother. Rohan.
Love that. It's like a video book club. But yeah, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to speak to you guys, buddies, pals, chums. So yeah, hopefully come back another time if you have me, Mike.
Absolutely. Thanks for waking up early and spending your time with us, James.
Yeah.
Round us the hell out of here, brother.
Thank you for doing this. I think it's a valuable thing to do, especially for people that maybe don't get to watch a lot of TV. I think that you can still enjoy the story and the way I have here.
So yeah.
Amen.
So thank you all for doing this.
Amen, and thanks for being here. We finish up. This is the deal. We'll do more of these in the future. Let us know what you want to hear. Again, just like Derek said, what's Squid Game, Stargate, Dune. There's all kinds of whack shit coming out. We can tackle.
Game could be good. Squid Game could be good.
Yeah, Squid Game could be good. So
it's huge. It is huge.
It is huge. It is huge. So that's the thing. Let us know, guys. We want feedback on all this. If you like the format, if you like the talks, if you like the things. If it's a longer series, we'll probably break it into more shows. It was 7, so it's kind of weird. So that's why we did 3 and 4. But yeah, so that's it. We're done. It's a wrap. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. I know it's been a long day of hanging out and listening and talking and having a good time. So it's hard to complain about any of that. As we finish, one more time, I'm Michael Strange. We're here with our good friend James Salcedo of Salcedo Paranormal Podcast. Give him some love. Our good buddy Rohan, who's got a podcast coming out to be determined. We'll share that as soon as it's available. And our good friend Nightstocker, the hottest podcast in the game when it comes out. Thanks a lot, guys. We're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. for more Troubled Minds. The rest of y'all, all of y'all, have a fantastic night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.